From a blind date came a sister who is a CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Breaking into the Door. Qiao Yushan's eyes were full of hostility, which made Su Weifeng feel a little uneasy. He said, "Yushan, what a coincidence. Today, there was a party with colleagues in the company. She drank too much and couldn't ask where her home was. I thought of opening a room for her and settling her down." Qiao Yushan sneered and said, "Really? Of course, you don't think I want to take advantage of her, do you?" After Su Weifeng finished speaking, he felt that his question was very meaningless. In this situation, anyone would think so. It's no wonder that Lin Zhuangxuan didn't want Qiao Yushan to recognize her. If Qiao Yushan saw that the two of them had checked into a room, she would be more crazy than any other woman. Qiao Yushan hugged her shoulders and looked at Su Weifeng coldly, just snorting heat from her nose. Qiao Yushan's attitude made Su Weifeng a little unhappy, but hugging Lin Zhuangxuan, he had to explain to Qiao Yushan as a boyfriend, otherwise Lin Zhuangxuan would know that his brother-in-law was a fake. The most important thing is that Su Weifeng cannot let Qiao Yushan's attention at this time. If he says something related to the fake relationship, it will be a troublesome matter. As for Qiao Yushan's attitude, it is obvious that she is not angry as a girlfriend. She should be annoyed and despised because she simply thinks that Su Weifeng has a character problem. If you don't believe it, then forget it. The facts will prove everything. At this time, the elevator came. Su Weifeng directly hugged Lin Zhuangxuan and entered the elevator in one step. He quickly slipped away and didn't want to talk to Qiao Yushan anymore. Qiao Yushan curled her lips in disdain. Now she had to redefine Su Weifeng's character. Wait, how can I watch a girl fall into the clutches of the devil and do nothing? Qiao Yushan was about to leave, but suddenly came to her senses and quickly stared at the elevator display. She saw that the floor was stopped on the 6th floor. Su Weifeng held Lin Zhuangxuan and didn't react at all until he entered the room. After they got into the room and closed the door, Lin Zhuangxuan finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, "My sister didn't realize it was me, did she?" If she can, then that's a better explanation." Su Weifeng put Lin Zhuangxuan down on the bed and sat down. Lin Zhuangxuan helped Su Weifeng sit down and said, "Then she will know that I'm running a company with you. I just don't want her to know what I'm doing now." Su Weifeng rolled his eyes at Lin Zhuangxuan and said, "I really don't understand what you are thinking. You have to complicate simple things. Now it's good. She has to think that I brought a woman out to get a room. I'm doomed. Ah, yes, this is bad. Then you go out quickly and say that you have settled me. I can do it here by myself." Su Weifeng looked at her and said, "Are you really okay?" "It's okay. What can happen to me? I just drank a little." Woo. Lin Zhuangxuan's mouth suddenly swelled up, and it was obvious that she was about to vomit. Su Weifeng didn't say anything. He directly picked her up and rushed into the bathroom. Even though Su Weifeng's movements were very fast, he was still a step too late. Lin Zhuangxuan opened her mouth and vomited directly. Su Weifeng's body and Lin Zhuangxuan's body were covered with a lot of dirt at once. That's not all. Lin Zhuangxuan vomited again when she leaned over the toilet. She was exhausted and sat on the ground. You can't drink. You drank so much." Su Weifeng frowned. The smell was one thing, but the most important thing was how to deal with Lin Zhuangxuan now. "I am happy," Lin Zhuangxuan muttered, but she didn't have the strength to open her eyes. Just now, it was only because of Qiao Yushan's sudden appearance that she sobered up a little, and now she was completely drunk again. "Do you still want to sleep here? Wake up, take off your clothes, and take a shower before going to bed. Hey, if you don't change your clothes are so smelly, can you sleep?" But this time Lin Zhuangxuan didn't react at all. Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment, and then he had to bite the bullet and take off Lin Zhuangxuan's coat, then wiped her face and chest with a towel, and then carried her to the bed. During the whole process, Lin Zhuangxuan hummed twice and basically did not react at all and did whatever Su Weifeng did. At this moment, the door was opened, and Qiao Yushan's voice sounded behind him. Let her go. Su Weifeng turned Lin Zhuangxuan over, so that her face was facing inward, and then covered her with the quilt all at once, even covering half of her face, and then stood up. Qiao Yushan and 2 hotel employees stood at the door. Qiao Yushan's face was full of anger, while the 2 waiters looked like they were watching a good show, as if this kind of scene of catching an adulterer was always quite exciting. Why did you come up just now? I thought you would come up earlier. Su Weifeng actually gave Qiao Yushan a complaining look. What do you mean? Qiao Yushan frowned. She vomited all over me. If you had come up earlier, you could have helped me. Now I can only deal with it myself. Oh my god, what a smell. Su Weifeng tugged at his collar, with a look of disgust on his face, and hurried into the bathroom, simply wiping the filth off his body. While wiping, Su Weifeng said to Qiao Yushan, I want to do something else, and leave her clothes. Besides, this kind of drunk woman is like a puddle of mud. I have no interest in it. The taste is so bad. My taste is not that kind. Okay, now we can go. After wiping his clothes, Su Weifeng took out Lin Zhuangxuan's clothes and said to the waiter, although my colleague drank too much, you have to be responsible in your hotel and can't let anyone enter her room again. By the way, wash her coat and send it to her tomorrow morning. When everyone came out, the 2 waiters looked at Su Weifeng and admired him. No matter whether Su Weifeng really wanted to do something wrong, he could be so calm and handle it so freely when facing his girlfriend. This buddy's mentality is really amazing. Qiao Yushan didn't say anything. After she came in, she saw that Lin Zhuangxuan on the bed was not naked. As long as the girl was fine, her goal was achieved. After leaving the hotel lobby, Qiao Yushan hugged her shoulders and looked at Su Weifeng, saying, I ruined your good thing. Should I apologize to you? Chapter 152 Scumbag. Su Weifeng smiled at Qiao Yushan and said, don't worry, I won't be so self-indulgent as to think that you are jealous. I really admire your sense of justice. You don't need to change the subject. I just want to ask you, if I don't go today, will you do it to that woman? Su Weifeng met Qiao Yushan's sharp eyes and said slowly, if you think you are not as attractive as other women, then you can think so. You. Qiao Yushan was speechless for a moment, which made her find no reason not to believe Su Weifeng. If Su Weifeng was really that kind of man, she would have lost her virginity long ago if she was with him. Qiao Yushan snorted and said, HMPH, for something like this, can't you find a girlfriend to do it? You just took off her clothes like this. Do you know that the girl can accept it? It's true that I didn't think it through. I just wanted to feel at ease. I have to explain it to her tomorrow. Qiao Yushan felt that Su Weifeng's attitude was quite decent, so she didn't say anything more. She got in the car directly, then opened the window and said, get in the car. Su Weifeng didn't hesitate, and got in the car directly. Qiao Yushan started the car and said, my mother will come tomorrow. Su Weifeng immediately said, auntie is coming, so I'll go to the station to pick her up. Okay, I have a lot of things to do tomorrow, and not just these 2 days, but I'll be very busy during this period of time. You just bear more for me. This is what I should do. Besides, your mother doesn't need me to entertain her at all, so she must be with my mother all day. Qiao Yushan thought about it, and thought that these 2 people must be thinking about how to get a house, so they wouldn't pay attention to them. Thinking this way, it would be very relaxing. The next day, Su Weifeng called Lin Zhuangxuan at around 7 o'clock, but the phone was turned off, so Su Weifeng had to go directly to the hotel. He first found the waiter and took the clothes that Lin Zhuangxuan had washed and dried, and then came to knock on the door. After knocking on the door for a while, Lin Zhuangxuan came to open the door, still wrapped in a bathrobe, looking like she had just woken up. Yawning, Lin Zhuangxuan turned and went into the room, threw herself on the bed, and said, I'm so sleepy, let me sleep for a while. Su Weifeng saw such a scene, and his face was also calm. He always saw it, and it didn't seem to be anything new. He said, then you sleep here, I'll go back to the company. What time is it? Lin Zhuangxuan covered his head and said in a muffled voice, it's almost 8 o'clock. Oh, it's so late, then I have to get up. Lin Zuangsun quickly got up and went to the bathroom to wash up. By the way, when I was sleeping today, I had an interesting dream. It said that I was drunk and you were carrying me to the hotel. My sister happened to see me and I was so scared that I quickly hid in your arms. Lin Zuangsun suddenly poked her head out with a toothbrush in her mouth. Su Weifeng couldn't help but burst out laughing and said, "What are you dreaming about? Is this real? What?" Lin Zuangsun screamed out and the toothbrush in her mouth fell to the ground. Then he rushed out and said, "Then am I dead this time?" Su Weifeng saw that Lin Zuangsun was so scared that she ran out without even putting on her bathrobe. He knew that Lin Zuangsun was scared and hurriedly said, "It's okay, she didn't realize it was you. I said you were a colleague in my company. Oh my god, I was scared to death." Lin Zuangsun patted his chest and said, "Fortunately she didn't recognize me. If she recognized me, then the two of us would have come to get a room, and we would never be able to wash ourselves clean, even if we jumped into the Yellow River." Su Weifeng said, "That's not the case. Why didn't you just admit that we set up a company together? Who knew that you had to hide and didn't want me to say it, which made it more difficult to resolve this matter?" Nonsense. She saw her boyfriend bringing a woman to get a room. How can this be explained? Everyone else would be furious, but if she knew it was me, she would go crazy. Wait, oh my god, even if she didn't know me, wouldn't you be dead? Why are you still smiling at me at this time? Lin Zuangsun suddenly came back to her senses and looked Su Weifeng up and down in confusion. Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "You underestimate Qiao Yushan. How can she be compared with ordinary women? Oh my god. How can you tolerate such a thing?" Lin Zuangsun's eyes almost popped out. Su Weifeng glared at Lin Zuangsun and said, "Get out of here. What a mess. Go and clean it up quickly. I'll tell you what happened again." Ah. Lin Zuangsun agreed, but when she entered the bathroom, she saw her situation in the mirror and immediately exclaimed again. Her face turned red. How did she get into this state? Su Weifeng went straight to the door of the bathroom. Lin Zuangsun turned around and glared at him fiercely, saying, "Hey, don't look." Su Weifeng was a little confused and retreated. Humph. Lin Zuangsun quickly picked up her bathrobe and put it on and took a new toothbrush and then called Su Weifeng over. Su Weifeng told her what happened last night. Lin Zuangsun also finished cleaning up. She said, "Thankfully, fortunately, my sister didn't find me. I admire her for being so rational. If I saw you doing this with another woman, I wouldn't be able to bear it." Then she kicked Su Weifeng again and said, "You bastard. I said that you looked so calm today when you saw me like this, and, are you telling the truth? You didn't do anything to me, did you?" As she spoke, she hugged her shoulders with her arms, looking like she had suffered a great grievance. How could I not? At that time, I was full of odor, and I was about to vomit. How could I be in that mood? Su Weifeng rolled his eyes at Lin Zuangsun. Thinking of this scene, Lin Zuangsun was indeed a little embarrassed and said angrily, "It's not that serious." Su Weifeng just rolled his eyes at Lin Zuangsun again. Lin Zuangsun snorted and said, "I despise you. You are so righteous, you scumbag." Puff. Su Weifeng stretched out his hand and slapped Lin Zuangsun on the waist, saying, "Silly girl, I helped you out of kindness, and you still say this to me. Let's break up." Lin Zuangsun was hit, but she giggled happily. Chapter 153. It's better to hold it back. On the way to the company, Lin Zuangsun had already thrown the things of last night aside and was holding her phone, looking at various data. This is really great. Although it is not a completely popular video, it has at least received a lot of praise. Such an effect has completely exceeded our expectations. Lin Zuangsun waved her fist vigorously. If she was not in the taxi, she would really cheer out loud. Seeing Su Weifeng's calm face next to her, Lin Zuangsun said, "Why are you so calm?" Su Weifeng smiled faintly and said, "Such a small achievement is not particularly worth celebrating." Lin Zuangsun rolled her eyes at Su Weifeng and said, "This is a good start, okay? This not only gives me confidence, but also gives confidence to other people in the company. It also shows that there is no problem with our direction." Oh. Su Weifeng's performance was still very calm. This really annoyed Lin Zuangsun. feeling like playing the lute to a cow, and simply ignored Su Weifeng. When they arrived at the company, Su Weifeng immediately clapped his hands to call everyone to a meeting, and then he and Lin Zhuangxuan entered the meeting room first. As soon as everyone was present, he immediately said, "Now, let Mr. Lin announce the results of the several videos uploaded this time. A lot of data, ordinary people in the company, that is not visible." Lin Zhuangxuan had been feeling uncomfortable for a long time, and now she excitedly told everyone the data of the night. When she said it, she was really indescribably happy and excited, and there was a special infectiousness in her language. The employees in the company were all excited and applauded and cheered. Lin Zhuangxuan just gave a simple introduction, but it was like a successful speech, which once again motivated the enthusiasm of the employees. After the meeting, Lin Zhuangxuan and Su Weifeng walked towards their offices. At this time, he raised his chin and snorted, "Huh, you don't want to listen, but everyone in the company likes to listen." Su Weifeng gave Lin Zhuangxuan a thumbs up and said, "Mr. Lin, you speak very well." Then he went into his office. Lin Zhuangxuan was stunned for a moment, and suddenly understood what Su Weifeng meant. This guy deliberately didn't talk to her about these things in the car, just to let her hold back her emotions, and then release them all at once in the company. If she expressed this joy with Su Weifeng in the car, then when she got to the company, she would just repeat it, and she wouldn't be so excited, and her words wouldn't be so contagious. "Asshole, then I won't bother with you." Lin Zhuangxuan narrowed her eyes, and walked into her office with a smile on her face. In the afternoon, Su Weifeng went to pick up Song Yuru. Lin Zhuangxuan was busy these days, and didn't go with Su Weifeng, but she went with her mother Shenji. Song Yuru didn't expect Shenji to pick her up. She was really touched, and the relationship between the two of them became much closer. It was only a little after 3 o'clock, and Song Yuru was also anxious, so she asked Song Weifeng to take her to see the new house. After seeing it, Song Yuru was also quite satisfied, and then she discussed the decoration with Shenji. However, both of them paid attention to each other's ideas. They were very restrained when they spoke of their different opinions. After all, it was the first time for the in-laws to meet. If they really said something harsh because of different opinions, it would be bad. Fortunately, there were enough houses to accommodate the ideas of both of them. The most important thing was that the two of them had basically the same opinions, so overall, it was very harmonious. Shenji said, "In-laws, I have an idea. You can live in my house for the next 2 days, and then we can discuss it. Is that convenient?" Song Yuru was really tempted. Shenji said, "My family's conditions are a bit poor. There are only 2 bedrooms. Let this kid live at Yushan's place for the next 2 days, and you can live in our house." Song Yuru said, "This is also a good idea. Let's do it." Shenji said, "That's great, son. Did you hear that?" What else could Su Weifeng say? This gave him no reason to refuse. He nodded and said, "No problem. It seems that he will have to stay in a hotel for the next few days." At around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Su Weifeng received a WeChat message from someone. "Are you free tonight?" Su Weifeng looked at the black cat avatar and was a little confused. He had never said a word to this person before, and he hadn't added me for long, so he didn't know who he was. "You are? Oh my god, you actually forgot about me. You're dead." Su Weifeng's face turned black, and he replied directly, "Why do I feel like I slept with you? Okay, if you come out today, I'll let you sleep." Followed by a few bloody knives. The tone of this voice suddenly reminded Su Weifeng of someone. When he went to buy a house 2 days ago, he met a girl driving a Porsche sports car. When he parked the car, Su Weifeng really didn't remember her name clearly, but it should be her. "No kidding. Why are you looking for me? We don't know each other." "Huh. Once is strange, twice is familiar. Send me your location and I'll pick you up." Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment, but still sent his location. Anyway, he didn't have anything to do today, and besides work, there was nothing else to do recently, so it was a good thing to find something else to relax. "It'll be there in 15 minutes. Su Weifeng greeted Shenji and Song Yuru, but the two of them didn't want to pay attention to him, which made Su Weifeng feel a little disappointed. He could only leave the house quietly. He left a little early. There were still 5 minutes before the agreed time, so Su Weifeng stood at the gate of the community waiting. A brown Porsche Cayenne stopped in front of Su Weifeng. When the window opened, Wei Lijian's face appeared in front of Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng was really surprised to see this guy. How could this guy have the nerve to stop in front of him after losing so much face last time? What a coincidence. Wei Lijian patted the steering wheel with a smug expression on his face. What a coincidence. Su Weifeng raised the corner of his mouth. Looking at Wei Lijian's actions just now, he already knew what this guy wanted to do. Where are you going? Are you waiting for a taxi here? Su Weifeng almost burst out laughing. This guy's self-hypnosis skills are getting deeper and deeper. Why is he standing here? Is he waiting for a taxi? Yeah. What's the matter? Su Weifeng didn't mind cooperating with him. Nothing. I saw you bought a villa and found a rich girlfriend that day. I was really envious at the time, but I soon figured it out. If a person lives without self-esteem, then even if he can live in a villa, what's the use of that? Chapter 154. You live without self-respect. Su Weifeng originally thought that Wei Lijian wanted to say that he didn't even have a car and wanted to show off his Porsche Cayenne, but who knew that this guy actually talked about men's self-esteem. However, this idea seems to be more advanced than talking about cars. After all, if a man is a gigolo, it is easy for him to have a car and a house, and the only thing that can be looked down upon is his self-esteem. Seeing Su Weifeng silent, Wei Lijian's self-confidence swelled all of a sudden. He was sure that he had guessed it right. He shook his head and said, Su Weifeng, people, especially men, have to work hard for themselves. What about money and cars? Even if you are not as good as me, you can't afford a big house or a luxury car, then at least you can live with dignity, and people won't dare to look down on you. But now, even if you have something else to say, I still despise you. Su Weifeng gave Wei Lijian a thumbs up and said, I didn't expect you to have such awareness. Humph, my awareness is high. Look at me, these things are from my own family, and I earned them myself. As for women, you have to find obedient and virtuous ones, so that you can give her a sense of security and reflect the value of man. Those women who are stronger than you will be stronger than you. You have to listen to them in everything and do whatever they tell you to do. How depressed a man would be if he lived without dignity and self-respect. Just like that girl. When Wei Lijian's car just stopped, a red Porsche convertible sports car drove over, and a girl wearing sunglasses sat in the driver's seat. At this time, in order to make his words more convincing, Wei Lijian pointed to the girl in the convertible sports car behind him and said, for example, this girl must be very rich. Is that something that ordinary people can afford? If a man who is not as good as her is with her, he will definitely be ordered around by her, and will definitely be ordered around like a dog by her. Dear. Before Wei Lijian finished speaking, the girl suddenly opened the car door and got out of the car. She first said these 3 words in a greasy voice, then came to Su Weifeng's side, stretched out her hand, and took Su Weifeng's arm, and said, I have been waiting for you for a long time, and you haven't finished talking yet. When Su Weifeng saw her, he remembered her name, Xu Lingling. He thought she would come directly to urge him to get in the car, but he didn't expect that she had been waiting for him and Wei Lijian to chat, and when she clearly heard that the conversation between the two was not pleasant, she came out to interrupt them. Before Su Weifeng could speak, Xu Lingling took off her sunglasses, gently shook Su Weifeng's arm, and said, I'm not being naughty. I've really been waiting for you. Don't be angry with me. Xu Lingling's voice was a little coquettish, but it didn't make people feel uncomfortable. In addition, she pouted her lips, and that little look made her look like a well-behaved wife trying to please her husband. Wei Lijian hadn't finished his words just now. His mouth was still open, and then he never closed it. What's going on? This is a man driving a Porsche sports car. Looking at the car, he didn't know what model it was, but looking at this car, it was brand new, definitely not the kind of second-hand market. The average Porsche sports car would cost at least 2 or 3 million, but it was more than twice as high-end as his Cayenne. And this girl, she was definitely a beauty. She is beautiful and rich, which is enough to show that she is a white, rich and beautiful woman. It's okay that you are white, rich and beautiful, but your attitude towards Su Weifeng is not good enough. You come over and glare at Su Weifeng. You look wild all over, but how come you are as obedient as a kitten in front of Su Weifeng? This guy is just here to slap him in the face, and it's a loud slap. Su Weifeng waved to Wei Lijian and walked away. Bye, brother. Xu Lingling smiled sweetly at Wei Lijian, and then took Su Weifeng's arm to get in the car. Wei Lijian didn't come back to his senses until the red Porsche sports car drove away with a roar, angrily slapping the steering wheel. Wei Lijian cursed with gritted teeth. Arsehole, this is absolutely impossible. How can he be so popular with women? He is pretending. He is definitely pretending. He is doing it on purpose for me to see. Wait. Wei Lijian's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said to himself, the woman just now didn't seem to be the one I saw last time. This guy's actually timing. No, this is definitely not timing. These rich women are all smart people. They would have exposed him long ago. The only possibility is that this guy is a gigolo, humph, or that kind of duck. Xu Lingling and Su Weifeng didn't know that the scene just now made Wei Lijian have such thoughts. The car stopped at a traffic light. Xu Lingling held the steering wheel with one hand, turned her head, and said proudly, hey, I just helped you. Don't you even say thank you? Su Weifeng put his hands behind his head and said, what is there to thank you for? You just asked me to help you with something. Who said that? I just asked you out for dinner. Okay, I'll go home after dinner. Eat you to death. Xu Lingling stepped on the accelerator and the car rushed out. After a while, Xu Lingling parked the car in front of a Western restaurant. After entering, Xu Lingling took Su Weifeng directly to a seat by the window, where there were a man and a woman. Both of them were dressed in a very fashionable and rebellious way, with colored hair and several earrings on their ears. The man was tall and thin, and the woman had a round face, and was slightly fat, but she looked good. Zhao Yang, He Fang Ying, my friend. Su Weifeng, my new friend. Xu Lingling introduced them casually, and sat directly opposite He Fang Ying. Hello. Su Weifeng greeted the two opposite, and then sat directly next to Xu Lingling. Zhao Yang and He Fang Ying looked Su Weifeng up and down, and He Fang Ying said doubtfully after a while, is this the driver you found? Xu Lingling took a sip of water and said, yes, I found him. When he 10. The waiter was called over, and the four people began to order food. He Fang Ying said, Lingling, is it okay? If he loses, you will be miserable. Xu Lingling curled her lips and said, lose, if you lose, I will marry him, and then I will be a member of the provincial capital family, and you all have to curry favor with me. He Fang Ying rolled her eyes at Xu Lingling and said, don't be so stubborn, we don't know you yet. You have resisted this family marriage for so long, how can you give up so easily? Chapter 155. Can he do it? Xu Lingling sighed and said, it's not that I want to give up, but I only have this one chance. Both our family and the Xu family have already exhausted their patience. He Fang Ying said, then I don't understand. I thought you proposed to race with them, because you found a master. The Mi family found a professional racer who had participated in the competition. If you just find one at random, you will definitely lose. Xu Lingling sighed again and said, do you think I want to? They gave me such a short time, I don't have the ability to find that kind of master. Besides, knowing that the Mi family wanted to gamble with me, those professional racers would hardly dare to come. Zhao Yang nodded and said, Lingling is right. The driver I contacted had agreed, but when he heard about the opponent, he immediately refused. The food was served at this time. Xu Lingling waved her hand and said, it doesn't matter whether we lose or win, it can't delay our dinner today. Su Weifeng, come on, it tastes good. Help me race a car later. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Su Weifeng cut a piece of steak, stuffed it into his mouth, chewed it for a few times, and then said, I've never raced a car. Poof, you don't know how to race a car? He Fang Ying screamed. Su Weifeng nodded and said, yes. Oh my god, Lingling, are you crazy? He Fang Ying and Zhao Yang both screamed. Xu Lingling also looked at Su Weifeng with a strange expression and said, you really haven't raced before? Su Weifeng shook his head very confidently and said, of course not. Xu Lingling suddenly showed a bright smile and said, if you haven't raced before, then you haven't raced before. Anyway, the result is almost the same. Su Weifeng looked at Xu Lingling and said, "You are really bold. You don't even know my situation, but you put your future in my hands. I dare not take such a big pot." Xu Lingling laughed and said, "It's not your fault if you lose. Come on, eat. Let's eat to your heart's content first." Zhao Yangyang and He Fangying both looked at Xu Lingling with worried eyes, while Xu Lingling was eating in big mouthfuls, as if she was in a good mood. After a while, He Fangying said, "Lingling, are you okay? What can happen to me? Don't worry. It's a competition. Who knows who will win or lose until the end. What if this guy gives me a surprise?" Xu Lingling said, with her arm on Su Weifeng's shoulder. "You are so sincere." Su Weifeng gave Xu Lingling a thumbs up in admiration. Xu Lingling laughed and said, "I like surprises and miracles. Let's take a gamble. If I lose, it's okay. If I win, I'll make a fortune. Come on, order whatever you want to eat. No matter whether we win or lose, I will remember your kindness." Xu Lingling felt very open-minded, but Su Weifeng could vaguely feel that she was determined and must have made a decision long ago. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "It seems too cheap to let me help you race for just this meal." Xu Lingling chuckled and said, "Didn't I help you pretend in front of that guy just now? Don't you have to help me this time?" Su Weifeng also chuckled, then stretched out his arm to hug Xu Lingling's waist and said with a smile, "You too, Lingling will definitely win." He Fangying and Zhao Yangyang were both stunned, and then their faces were full of anger. Although Xu Lingling usually looks like a non-mainstream, she is still very decent when it comes to matters between men and women. Su Weifeng's actions are obviously taking advantage of Xu Lingling, which makes the two unacceptable. "Okay, I also pretended for you. Now we are on top," Su Weifeng said, and then let go. He Fangying and Zhao Yangyang's jaws almost dropped. This buddy is awesome. He dared to take advantage of Xu Lingling so blatantly. Seeing Xu Lingling's green face, they can all predict what will happen to this guy next. "Okay, you're so good at pretending." Xu Lingling gritted her teeth and looked at Su Weifeng, saying viciously, "If you win the race today, that's fine. If you lose, humph, I'll drag you to marry me." Puff. He Fangying laughed out loud and said, "Even if I bring someone, I'll bring a maid as a dowry. Why do you bring a grown man? I won't want him, will I?" Xu Lingling gritted her teeth and said, "I just want him to be a maid as a dowry." He Fangying and Zhao Yangyang were stunned for a moment, and then they all laughed. And Su Weifeng couldn't help but frown. This Xu Lingling was really cruel. "Will you help me race now?" Xu Lingling stared at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng did not know whether to laugh or cry and said, "Is this how you ask for help?" He Fangying glared at him and said, "You are such a pretentious guy. It's your honor that Lingling found you, and she's begging you? They really take you too seriously." Zhao Yangyang also said disdainfully, "You've never been to a racetrack. Lingling is giving you a chance, but you're taking it as an excuse. It's really funny." Su Weifeng squinted his eyes, looked at Xu Lingling, and said, "Do you think so too?" Xu Lingling chuckled and said, "Of course not. I'm asking for your help, and I know you're only here to give me face. Otherwise why would I help you pretend when I picked you up?" Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Okay, then I'll help you this time." He Fangying and Zhao Yangyang were both stunned. What was going on? Was this guy really capable? Otherwise, with Xu Lingling's arrogant temper, why was he so polite to this guy? Xu Lingling waved her hand and said, "Eating is eating. Don't talk so much nonsense." Although He Fangying and Zhao Yangyang were puzzled, they saw that Xu Lingling didn't want to talk, so they didn't say anything more. After dinner, the four of them went out. Xu Lingling threw the car keys to Su Weifeng and said, "You drive." Su Weifeng took it casually, then sat in the driver's seat, and then took a few glances before starting the engine. Xu Lingling sat in the co-pilot seat and said, "Just follow their car." Zhao Yangyang drove a Ferrari sports car parallel to Su Weifeng's car and said, "Follow me, otherwise you don't have to race for Lingling." Then he stepped on the accelerator several times. The car made a few explosions, and then rushed out. Su Weifeng's car drove out slowly, and the starting speed was like a normal family car. "You keep up with him." Xu Lingling was very upset. "Speeding will deduct points," Su Weifeng said, still so steady, not in a hurry at all. Xu Lingling was petrified all of a sudden. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, The Master Appears. Brother, can you please stop teasing me? You know your driving skills are very good. Xu Lingling's face was full of helplessness. Su Weifeng said, just because I won the parking space with you? Yes. Xu Lingling answered with certainty, although my racing skills are not very high, I have a kind of obsessive love for this sport. I like to watch various racing videos the most. Regarding various racing theories, I can definitely be called a master. Although it is just a parking space, you have fully demonstrated your driving skills and keen judgment in the process. Especially the parking technique is definitely a master among racers. Oh my god, you can see so much. Su Weifeng was also a little surprised, and said, this can't be a coincidence, it can't be an extraordinary performance. Xu Lingling smiled proudly and said, if it's anything else, I may be wrong, but racing, I'm absolutely confident, so you don't have to hide it. When the time comes, you helped me win this game, I will definitely thank you very much. Alas, this person, if you are too good, even if you want to hide, there will always be someone who can find you out with a discerning eye. It's really helpless. Su Weifeng shook his head, he stepped on the accelerator and the car rushed out. However, the speed of the car was still not very fast, that is, it just reached the speed limit of this road, but he could maintain this speed, passing one car after another, and the speed of the car seemed to have never dropped. Xu Lingling's eyes lit up. This may not seem exciting, but it requires strong driving skills. It seems not difficult to keep the car at the same speed, but that is on a road without cars. Now there are cars coming and going on the road, some fast and some slow. If you want to maintain this speed, you must overtake and merge from time to time. To maintain a speed, you definitely need a super level. In addition, Xu Lingling also knew that Su Weifeng was familiar with the performance of the car. Only a true master would do this. Ordinary people would not do this. Even if they knew it, they would not know it. Only she, a super racing enthusiast, would study such things. Sangzi Mountain. This is a small hill closest to the city, with a total height of only 200 or 300 meters. The winding mountain road runs from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. The road is just 2 rows of lanes. Usually, it is a place for everyone to exercise and relax. But after 10 o'clock in the evening, this place has become the favorite place for some racing enthusiasts. The winding mountain road here has many bends, and some of the bends are very sharp. It is really not easy to pass without some skills. After 9 o'clock, those who come here to exercise have basically all left. At 10 o'clock, as one car after another drove to the foot of the mountain, the sound of the sports car engine was endless. Fortunately, there is no residential area nearby, so this place can always be occupied by these racing enthusiasts. There are basically no poor people who can afford to play racing. The value of a racing car alone is not something that ordinary people can afford, not to mention the usual maintenance, plus the cost of modification is even more inestimable. So the people who can come here are basically the second generation of rich families with very rich families. Occasionally, there are a few enthusiasts who can sell their pots and irons for racing, but obviously, their income is not low. A young man jumped out of the car and said excitedly, big news, big news. What news? Several people standing there surrounded the newcomer. Lingling has a competition today, the man said. Another person said, Lingling's competition is rare, but it's not big news. Lingling's level is just average, there's nothing to brag about. What do you know? Lingling's competition this time is of great significance. She's betting on her own marriage. Oh my god, no way. The Xu family is in such a high position. Who can force Xu Lingling to get married? I heard it was the Mi family in the provincial capital. Mi family. Oh my god, the Mi family is very powerful. If Xu Lingling really marries into the Mi family, then the Xu family will become a big family and its strength will be improved. Then why bother to bet? The Xu family will definitely agree. If the Xu family agrees, can Xu Lingling agree? With her personality, I feel she will definitely refuse. So this competition should be an excuse Shuling found to refuse the other party. It's hard to say this time. Although Shulingling has high standards, the status of the Mi family is also worthy of her attraction. Everyone who comes here is powerful. These men are never short of beautiful women around them. So Shulingling's beauty alone is not enough to make others act like lickers. Therefore, everyone can objectively analyze Shulingling's marriage. At this time, two sports cars drove over Qiao Qingming from the Qiao family. The Qiao family and the Mi family have always been very close. It can be said that the Mi family is an important partner here. So he must be someone from the Mi family. Qiao Qingming got out of the car first, followed by Mi Xiangang. These two guys were severely punished by Su Weifeng a few days ago. It took several days for the swelling on their faces to subside, and their teeth have not been filled yet. If Shulingling's matter was not more important this time, Mi Xiangang would really not appear here. Hello, Mr. Qiao. Even here, Qiao Qingming's status is not low, and everyone came to greet him. Qiao Qingming immediately straightened his chest and said, "Brothers, let me introduce you to this man, Mi Xiangang, the eldest son of the Mi family in our provincial capital." Mi Xiangang smiled and nodded to everyone, without saying much. As a young master in the provincial capital, he had his own capital to be proud of. A young master came to Qiao Qingming's side and asked curiously in a low voice, "Young Master Qiao, I heard that this time it is Shulingling and young Master Mi who are competing?" Qiao Qingming laughed and said, "Yes, if young Master Mi wins this time, Shulingling will marry young Master Mi, but this time young Master Mi will win 100%. Look who this is." Following Qiao Qingming's voice, the window of the blue Lamborghini rolled down, revealing the face of a man in his 30s inside. Song Zibin. Oh my god, it's Song Zibin. He is one of the top 10 racing drivers in our country. Is there any competition in this competition? Yes, they actually invited such a master. Shulingling will definitely lose, unless she invites a more advanced racing driver. Chapter 157. It's you, Song Zibin. I want an autograph. As one person shouted, many people rushed forward. Although they were rich, they still admired the top figures in the industry. Qiao Qingming smiled and said, "Young Master Mi, the person you're looking for is really famous. These guys actually went to ask for his autograph." Mi Xiangang said proudly, "Of course. If my Mi family wants to find someone, then we'll naturally find the best. Besides, this time I must make sure that girl from the Shu family marry me obediently. There can't be any trouble. After this is done, I must find that bastard Su Weifeng for me." Qiao Qingming nodded repeatedly and said, "I have already checked out this kid's ancestors. He is just a guy who retired from the army. His family has no ability. I can kill such a person with just one finger. And you must bring those two girls to me. Don't worry, I will make arrangements for you." After being beaten by Su Weifeng that time, the Qiao family quickly investigated Su Weifeng's situation, but Xiaoliuzi reported the matter to the Mi family. The Mi family asked Mi Xiangang to finish the Shu family's affairs first, and put the others aside. That's why they didn't look for Su Weifeng in the past few days. Zhao Yangyang and He Fangying also came here at this time. Listening to everyone's chatter, neither of them could get a word in. Now seeing that the person invited by the other party was actually Song Zibin, the two were even more shocked. There were only a few masters like him in the country who could compete, and those people were basically difficult to invite again. Or they could invite them from abroad, but it was even more difficult to invite masters from abroad, and it was not just a matter of money. Lingling will definitely lose this time. Zhao Yangyang muttered in a low voice. He Fangying hesitated for a moment and said, "Maybe the guy Lingling found is also a bit capable? It's just him." Zhao Yangyang's face darkened and said, "We have been here for a long time, and there is no sign of his car. If he is not a bit capable, he shouldn't be so slow." He Fangying sighed. In fact, she also knew this, but she was just looking for some hope. Finally, they saw Shulingling's car coming over. Looking at the slow speed, it was like an old car. The little confidence that Zhao Yangyang and He Fangying had left disappeared at once. This is not Shulingling's style. When did she drive so steadily? It seems that the driver is a man. Could it be a master that Shulingling hired? Master, are you kidding? Which racing master would drive like this? Everyone talked at once, and Xu Lingling's car finally stopped slowly. Xu Lingling opened the car door and jumped out of the car. Everyone's eyes immediately turned to her. Many people came up to greet Xu Lingling. In this circle, Xu Lingling's popularity is still very high. Let alone other things, just in terms of theory, no one here does not admire her. Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming walked up to Xu Lingling, looking at Xu Lingling's face. Mi Xiangang also had a smile on his face. It was rare to be able to marry a beautiful girl like Xu Lingling in a marriage like this between families. So he said, Lingling, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Xu Lingling also had a smile on her face and said, let me confirm again. Do you have the final say on our bet? Mi Xiangang raised his chin and said, of course, but this game is just a formality. Female Lingling insisted and said, don't say that. You may not win. What if you lose, and you don't admit it? No, it's useless for you to admit it. Can your family admit it? I don't want your family to cause trouble for our family again. Your Mi family is big and powerful, and it is not something a small family like ours can compete with. Mi Xiangang laughed and said, you're overthinking it. There are so many people watching here. If I lose, our Mi family will come to trouble your Xu family again. Wouldn't it make us look too stingy? And don't worry, if you win, the cooperation between our Mi family and your Xu family will not be affected. Anyway, he is sure to win, so Mi Xiangang doesn't mind talking big. As expected, you are a young master from a big family from the provincial capital. Your words are weighty. Xu Lingling gave Mi Xiangang a thumbs up. That's inevitable. I can't let my future wife look down on me, right? Mi Xiangang blinked, feeling that he was still quite humorous. Qiao Qingming next to him immediately laughed, and several other family members also laughed. Although their identities are not ordinary, they are still much worse than Mi Xiangang from the provincial capital. It is also very normal to flatter and please him. Xu Lingling also had a smile on her face, but it was not a happy smile, but a little weird. Mi Xiangang felt a little uneasy and said, Lingling, what kind of expert did you invite? Won't you let us see it? Xu Lingling said, no need, I just found a friend. Mi Xiangang was even more curious and said, if you can call me a friend, then I have to see it. What's the matter? You didn't invite a great expert and then come here to trick me. Xu Lingling rolled her eyes at Mi Xiangang and said, I'm not like you. I was afraid of losing and directly found a professional racing driver. Mi Xiangang laughed and said, this shows how much I value you. I don't want any accidents to ruin our marriage. I can't wait to marry you home. Xu Lingling snorted and said, you are worried, so let me show you. Then she knocked on the car window. The car window rolled open, revealing Su Weifeng's face. Everyone looked at Su Weifeng, and then their faces showed doubts. Who is this? I can recognize almost all the famous racers in our country. This guy is unfamiliar. This shouldn't be a professional racer. You don't understand this. The marriage between the Xu family and the Mi family is a great thing for the Xu family. Xu Lingling proposed a competition, which is just a formality. Why use a master? Just find someone to compete with, and she can marry into the Mi family legitimately. That makes sense. I thought this game would be very exciting. Now it seems that this game is not interesting at all. Everyone talked about it, but soon determined that Xu Lingling just found someone randomly and was definitely not a master. It's you, kid. Qiao Qingming gritted his teeth and roared at this time. Everyone was shocked. What's going on? Why does Qiao Qingming look like he has some deep hatred with the person Xu Lingling found? This made everyone excited all of a sudden, and it seemed that today's events became much more interesting. Chapter 158 Worry. Xu Lingling was also stunned, looking at Qiao Qingming in confusion, and said, do you know him? Qiao Qingming said viciously, more than that, we were looking for this guy, but we didn't expect him to come to our door today. Xu Lingling was shocked. This guy had a deep hatred for Su Weifeng, which made her regretful. Bringing Su Weifeng here was like sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. Mi Xianggang's face was also gloomy at this time, and he said, Lingling, what is your relationship with this guy? Xu Lingling saw Mi Xianggang's face, and her heart sank again. It seemed that Su Weifeng had offended not only Qiao Qingming, but also Mi Xiangang. He is my friend. What's wrong? Xu Lingling raised her chin and met Mi Xiangang's gaze without any hesitation. Mi Xiangang's eyes were even more fierce, and he said, this kid has a big grudge against me. I will kill him sooner or later. You'd better cut off your relationship with her. Xu Lingling was secretly cursing in her heart, but still said, what grudge do you have with him? That's your business. He is here to compete for me today. He is my man. Anyone who dares to touch him will have trouble with me. Mi Xiangang was immediately furious and said, you want to protect him? Xu Lingling said without hesitation, that's right. No one is allowed to touch him today. Do you want to compete or not? Mi Xiangang turned his gaze to Su Weifeng and said, boy, I didn't expect you to come again. Very good, let's compete today. After today, you will know what consequences you will have to bear for provoking me and my Mi family. Qiao Qingming also said viciously, and our Qiao family, do you think that we didn't settle accounts with you these days because we are afraid of you? You are wrong. We are just too busy to deal with you because of Lingling's matter. Next. Humph. Su Weifeng had not spoken and only then said calmly, you two guys really only remember to eat and not to be beaten. Fuck you. Get down here, I'll kill you. Qiao Qingming was furious. Xu Lingling blocked him in front of him, staring and shouting, are you going to compete or not? If not, I'll leave. Mi Xiangang and Xu Lingling looked at each other. Xu Lingling did not retreat at all. Mi Xiangang took a deep breath, gritted his teeth and said, okay, then let's compete. Everyone stared at Su Weifeng in the car with wide eyes, listening to the conversation and reaction of both sides. This kid not only offended Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang, but also might have beaten them. This kid is really amazing. In this city, it is not easy to offend Qiao Qingming and still be alive, and he even offended Mi Xiangang. The most important thing is that Su Weifeng is not afraid of Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang at all. How can everyone not suspect that he is also a person with a big background? But after checking all the young people with strong backgrounds in the city, there was no such person as Su Weifeng. Xu Lingling got in the car and asked Su Weifeng to close the car window. Then she said with a grim face, how did you offend them? Su Weifeng said lightly, they wanted to bully my friends, so I beat them up. Damn, you actually beat them up. You are really crazy. Xu Lingling's mouth twitched, looking at Su Weifeng, as if he was a monster. Su Weifeng smiled lightly and said nothing. This is bad. They will never let you go. Even if I can save you with the excuse of the competition, I can't save you next time. After the competition, you must leave immediately and then leave this city immediately. The farther you hide, the better. You must never let them find you again. You want me to run away? Su Weifeng felt a little funny. Yeah, it would be okay if you didn't run. I have a card here with some money in it. At least it can keep you alive for a while. Alas, it's also my fault. Why did I ask you to compete? Seeing Xu Lingling's face full of self-blame, Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, don't worry, it's okay. What do you mean it's okay? You don't know how terrifying these families are. You don't know how strong they are. Not to mention someone like you, even people with some reputation in society, are nothing in front of them. They can make a person go from heaven to hell in an instant. Su Weifeng snorted and said, we are a country under the rule of law. All families must abide by the law. Xu Lingling curled her lips and said, abide by the law? You are so naive. People like them have basically surpassed the existence of the law. It is very difficult to punish them with the law. Su Weifeng shook his head and said, so I said, your families are the cancer of society. No matter how strong you are, I tell you, you are not qualified to be above the law. Why don't you believe it? Xu Lingling was a little annoyed. I tell you this to make you understand that these people are at least not people you can afford to offend now. Su Weifeng snorted and said, I think beating up such bastards is light. It's better not to provoke me again. Otherwise it won't be so easy next time. Xu Lingling was choked and speechless. She had never seen anyone who dared to look down on these families so much. Okay, let's compete, and we'll talk about this later. Su Weifeng didn't want to argue with Xu Lingling about this. In Su Weifeng's eyes, the family forces in these small places are just like frogs at the bottom of a well. They are used to the power they usually have, and they don't know that their arbitrary behavior will sooner or later become the straw that breaks their back. When the car arrived at the starting point, Xulingling suddenly remembered something, and her face turned pale, and she said, "Have you been to this road before?" "No, it's my first time here," Su Weifeng answered casually. "Damn. I overlooked this, and didn't even let you run this road twice first. This is definitely a major mistake. Whether the racer is familiar with the road or not will definitely affect the performance, especially on a road with many bends." Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "This is simple. You run it often, so just be my navigator." "Are you sure?" Xulingling's eyes lit up immediately. "Of course." Su Weifeng was very sure. "Okay, that's no problem." Xulingling suddenly became excited. For others, Su Weifeng's failure to run this road is a mistake, but for a real racing master, actually participating in the competition, especially those rallies with complex terrain, does not require him to run several times by himself, but only needs a professional navigator beside him. This is enough to show that Su Weifeng is definitely a master, a top master. Chapter 159 Racing. A Porsche and a Lamborghini were parked at the starting point. The roar of the engines of the two cars was endless, like two beasts ready to eat at any time. In the Lamborghini, Mi Xiangang gritted his teeth and said, "You must win." Song Ziban rolled his eyes. "A little Mi Xiao, how could I lose in a competition with such an unknown person?" Mi Xiangang exhaled and said, "You are right. I'm so angry." "Then you must use all your strength." "I want to win so hard that he can't even find the north." "Okay." Song Ziban shook his head, feeling that such a competition was really meaningless. If it weren't for Mi Xianggang's identity and the high reward he received, he really wouldn't bother to come here to compete. In his heart, he didn't take Su Weifeng seriously at all. It was just a casual competition, and winning was fine. A girl in front counted 3 numbers, then waved her hand violently downwards. The two cars immediately rushed out. In racing, even if you are good at it, there is no such thing as giving up a few meters or a few seconds. That would be too pretentious. Song Ziban would not do that, nor would Su Weifeng. In the race, in many cases, the difference is less than a second. There was a straight road ahead, and the two cars were basically running side by side, with no order of precedence. However, this does not show a person's level at all. Any enthusiast here can almost do this. After all, the performance of everyone's car is not much different. The straight road is a competition of car performance, plus the reaction speed at the start. The two cars immediately entered the first bend. The curvature of this bend is not large. Song Ziban only lightly applied the brakes, and the car rushed through at high speed, immediately getting ahead of Su Weifeng's car. 100 meters, 5th gear right turn. Xulingling stared at the front and said loudly. Su Weifeng's car also rushed through the bend immediately, but he immediately said, "Lead the way 20 meters in advance." "Got it." Xulingling nodded quickly. She also felt that she was a little late when she spoke just now, so Su Weifeng was a little unstable when turning. 100 meters, 4th gear right turn. It was another bend, and Xulingling shouted half a second in advance. This time, when Su Weifeng's car passed the bend, it was a little smoother than before. 100 meters, 3rd gear left turn. Xulingling shouted again. Her expression was still a little nervous. The bends are getting bigger and bigger, and the level of the driver is also getting higher and higher. In the race, it is these bends that really determine the outcome. When passing the bend, the car must slow down, and the level of the driver means the length of time it takes to turn. The opponent's professional racing driver Song Ziban has already understood the track in advance, so he can pass such a bend very quickly. After Su Weifeng passed the bend, he was already left behind by the opponent by more than 50 or 60 meters. Whoosh! The tires made a harsh sound against the ground. The car slowed down a little, turned the corner directly, and then rushed out at high speed again. Beautiful! Xulingling praised loudly. This corner was more difficult than the previous two, but Su Weifeng turned it faster. This not only showed that Su Weifeng's driving skills were good, but also showed that the cooperation between the two was much more tacit. In the Lamborghini in front, Mi Xiangang turned his head and looked behind him, saying, "Yes, you are indeed a master." Song Zibun said with some disdain. Michao, the victory or defeat in a competition with such a person has already been determined. There is really no need to be nervous. I'm not nervous, I just feel a little uncomfortable. Mi Xiangang swallowed his saliva. The feeling of sitting in a racing car was actually not good. Most people will secrete a lot of adrenaline due to strong nervousness, and will also feel nauseous and dizzy. Generally, people who often play this, or are born to like excitement will be more adaptable. Mi Xiangang was obviously not that kind of person. If he hadn't seen Su Weifeng coming to participate in the competition, he would have won him with his own eyes, and he really wouldn't have gotten on this car. Song Zibun glanced at Mi Xiangang, and couldn't help feeling a little disdainful. This was a typical rich kid, rich and willful, but not very manly. After the car passed another big bend, Song Zibun glanced at the rear view mirror and couldn't help but be a little surprised. What's wrong? Mi Xiangang asked, holding the handrail on the right side of his head tightly with both hands. Song Zibun's eyes showed excitement, and he said, you're actually quite good. You've caught up. What? You've caught up? You hurry up. Mi Xiangang shouted angrily. Okay, watch me. Song Zibun immediately perked up. Normally, with his current performance, the average driver would probably be left behind by him by hundreds of meters, but the opponent was left behind by 50 or 60 meters at the beginning, and now he's only caught up to about 30 meters, which means that the opponent's performance over this distance is actually better than his. Song Zibun naturally didn't try his best just now, that is, he only used 50% to 60% of his ability. Now he was fully focused, and the speed of the car soared immediately. The distance between the car and the front car was getting closer, which made Xu Lingling quite excited. But after a bend, the distance between the two cars increased again, which made her nervous again. Then when she guided the car again, she was not so accurate, causing Su Weifeng to slow down again when turning. Calm down and keep accurate. Su Weifeng reminded her lightly. Xu Lingling also knew that she had made a mistake just now. She took a deep breath to calm herself down. When she guided the car again, she was accurate again. Su Weifeng said, not bad, just keep this state, don't worry, he can't win. Yeah, I believe you. Xu Lingling waved her fist vigorously. At this time, she had to believe in Su Weifeng, and judging from Su Weifeng's current driving skills, he was definitely a trustworthy person. Oh my god, their level is really not low. This level can definitely be compared with that of professional racing drivers. Song Zibun, who was in the front, had already exerted his full strength, but he still couldn't get rid of the car behind him. The distance between the two of them was also kept at about 50 meters. He couldn't help but praise him. Fuck, you still have the mood to praise them, don't let them catch up. Mi Xiangang cursed with gritted teeth. Song Zibun frowned, and didn't say much. Soon, both cars rushed to the top of the mountain, and then went back downhill, but the distance between the two cars remained the same. It seemed that Su Weifeng's level was equal to Song Zibun's. The gap in front was now like an insurmountable gap that could no longer be narrowed. Chapter 160 Winning. No need to report it. Su Weifeng suddenly said at this time. Xu Lingling was stunned for a moment and said, can you do it yourself? I've been through it once, and the same bends will be there when I go back. I know how to deal with it. Su Weifeng said lightly, and he turned around a bend. Although Xu Lingling and Su Weifeng's cooperation just now was not bad, Xu Lingling is not a professional navigator after all, and it was the first time for them to work together, so they still couldn't achieve seamless cooperation. Now Su Weifeng knows where the bends are, and how big the bends are, there will be no more errors. Oh my god. It was a third gear bend just now, why did you use the fourth gear speed? The car turned a corner along the outermost road and almost rushed out, which made Xu Lingling sweat, and couldn't help shouting. It's okay, I know what I'm doing. Su Weifeng's answer was still calm, and the speed of the car was getting faster and faster. Damn, you changed another gear. Another bend was passed. Although it looked dangerous, it was passed safely, and the distance with the Lamborghini in front was obviously getting closer. After calling out, Xu Lingling knew that Su Weifeng's performance was not a mistake at all, but his true level. This is definitely a master among masters. Xu Lingling's eyes were about to sparkle, and she looked at Su Weifeng, Her eyes were full of little stars. For a racing fan, suddenly finding a master sitting in his car, it is definitely a very exciting thing. Speed up. Speed up. Mi Xiang'an was already roaring in anger as he watched the car behind him getting closer and closer. Song Ziban's face was as gloomy as water. He now felt that the opponent's level was extremely high. If he continued like this, he might really lose. It's okay, there are still 2 bends ahead. He can't surpass me. Fortunately, there are only 2 bends. In this situation, the car behind can catch up with him at most 10 meters, which is still a gap of 10 meters with him. At that time, when it comes to the last straight road, the opponent will definitely have no chance to catch up with him. Just as Song Ziban expected, after turning another corner, the gap between the 2 cars was less than 20 meters. At the last corner, the other car could only overtake by 5 or 6 meters, so he should still win. Xu Lingling obviously knew the situation, and was a little anxious at this time, saying, "What should we do? What should we do? If we can't overtake in this corner, then we lose." "No problem." Su Weifeng raised the corner of his mouth, and showed a confident smile. Then before she could come to her senses, the car had already entered the last corner. At the starting point, everyone was looking forward to it. Haha, let's guess who will win. Nonsense, it must be Song Ziban who will win. That's right, what level is Song Ziban? I haven't even heard of that kid. You're asking this, aren't you an idiot? This is really not suspenseful at all. The gap is too big. We should study how many seconds Song Ziban can beat him. Haha, how many seconds? I think at least 2 minutes. Here it comes. At this time, the roar of the car was getting closer and closer, and the blue Lamborghini had turned from the corner, as if confirming everyone's opinion. But at this moment, a red car suddenly rushed through the bend right next to the Lamborghini, and it didn't slow down at all. When the Lamborghini accelerated, it had already surpassed the Lamborghini, and rushed to the finish line quickly. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? How could this be possible? Xu Lingling in the car was still in a daze. At the last bend, she didn't feel Su Weifeng's car slowing down at all. He was just using the high speed to pass this bend. Even if it was the last bend, rushing through it at such a speed, it seemed that there were only 2 possibilities. One was rushing out of the road, and the other was directly overturning. But when the car came to the bend, Su Weifeng suddenly reached out and grabbed Xu Lingling's arm directly. Xu Lingling only felt her body lighten, and then she didn't know how she got it. She actually sat in Su Weifeng's arms. Then when she came to her senses again, the car had already passed the bend, and it seemed that a blue shadow flashed by. Squeak. With a long brake sound, Su Weifeng parked the car, and Xu Lingling was still sitting in Su Weifeng's arms, motionless, a little dazed, a little stupid. At this time, everyone was standing there stupidly. Their brains were all frozen. What was going on? Song Ziban lost? Wow. The first one to come back to her senses was Yifang Ying. After shouting, she immediately rushed over and directly opened the passenger door. Lingling. You won. Ah. Yifang Ying's eyes widened and stared at the 2 people in the car. Ah. Xu Lingling finally came back to her senses at this time, looking at Yifang Ying in a daze, and said, "We lost. You won." Yifang Ying swallowed a mouthful of saliva. "Really won?" Xu Lingling's voice suddenly rose 8 degrees. "Yes, you won." Yifang Ying agreed again, still staring at Xu Lingling. "You lied to me, didn't you? I won. Why do you still have this expression?" Yifang Ying's mouth twitched, and she said, "You really won, but this is too exciting, isn't it? What do we have? Damn it." Xu Lingling only then realized the position between her and Su Weifeng, and then she widened her eyes and roared, turning her head to stare at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng shrugged helplessly and said, "I also want to send you back, but you are holding too tightly." Xu Lingling only then realized that she had been holding Su Weifeng's arm, and her fingernails were digging into the flesh. Who cares? I just have fun. It's so exciting. Xu Lingling laughed, hugged Su Weifeng's head, and kissed him heavily on the face without any hesitation. Su Weifeng was a little speechless after being kissed by Xu Lingling, but this kind of action under excitement was nothing, and said, "Okay, get off quickly." Xu Lingling agreed and opened the car door directly. Just now, with Yifang Ying blocking the way, no one could see the situation in the car clearly. This time, when the door of the cab was opened, everyone finally saw the situation inside clearly. Oh my god. No way. This kind of high-speed racing car can still be played here? This is really exciting. Xu Lingling must be really good at playing. No wonder Xu Lingling dares to compete. It turns out that she really found an expert. This is more than an expert. It's simply an expert of an expert. Who can play this in the car and still beat a professional racing driver? Hearing this, Mi Xiangang felt a green light rubbing on his head, and he was so angry that he was about to explode. Chapter 161 You Can Live Here. Xu Lingling came to Mi Xiangang, raised her chin, and said proudly, I won the game this time, right? Mi Xianggang's face became even uglier, and he said nothing. What's the matter? Young Master Mi, you don't want to admit it? Xu Lingling's face suddenly darkened. Mi Xiangang gritted his teeth and said, a trash woman like you, doing this kind of thing with this bastard here. Do you think I can still marry you? You dream on. Xu Lingling did not argue, but chuckled and said, that's right, I'm not a decent woman. If I enter your Mi family, I will definitely embarrass your Mi family. It's just right to part ways and everyone will be happy. Mi Xiangang ignored Xu Lingling, and his eyes were fixed on Su Weifeng, saying, boy, our hatred is big this time. So what? Do you want to fight with me? Su Weifeng glanced at Mi Xiangang with disdain. Mi Xiangang was speechless. This time he and Qiao Qingming went out, and Xiao Liuzi was not brought along. Qiao Qingming brought a bodyguard from his family. This was fine for dealing with ordinary people, but it was useless for dealing with Su Weifeng. I warn you again, you'd better not mess with me, otherwise I will not just beat you up and leave it at that. Su Weifeng said to Xu Lingling, get in the car, let's go. Xu Lingling agreed happily, ran over, and actually got into the car directly from Su Weifeng's side. She sat in Su Weifeng's arms all of a sudden, blinked at Mi Xiangang, and said, let's go play, bye. Su Weifeng drove the car out, and then said, you finished your play, hurry over, it's awkward for me to drive like this. Xu Lingling giggled, twisted her waist, and said, why is it awkward? You want to kill someone? Su Weifeng lifted her shoulders, and put her directly in the passenger seat. Oh my god, you're too strong. Xu Lingling had no strength to resist at all. Then she glared at her and said, why didn't you let me go when we reached the finish line just now? You were holding my arm at that time, how could I have used any strength? Su Weifeng rolled his eyes at her in annoyance. Oh my, you took advantage of me, and looked so reluctant. I despise you. It's so easy to take advantage of you. Look at Mi Xiangang. If looks could kill, I would have been cut into pieces. Xu Lingling chuckled and said, yes, I'm really happy to see him like that. Turning around, Xu Lingling put away her smile and said, I won't make trouble with you anymore. Let's talk about business. Are you really not afraid that they will retaliate? Su Weifeng said lightly, no, I said, if they make trouble for me, it will only make them worse. So awesome? Xu Lingling stared at Su Weifeng and said, I really can't see through you. Don't tell me that you are from a big family in Beijing, or that you are more powerful than the Mi family in the province. You think too much. Then where do you get the confidence from? These people are really powerful. Su Weifeng laughed and said nothing. TSK, keep it a secret. I want to help you, but I don't have any status in the family, and I can't say much. I can only cheer you on from the side. Su Weifeng nodded and said, that's enough. You are really mysterious. I'm really interested in you. Can I still come to play with you in the future? Su Weifeng said, I'm very busy at work. Humph, you are not a good friend. I'm really busy. I still have to make money, to save money for my wife, unlike you who have everything when you were born. PFFT. Are you kidding? You still have to make money, to save money for your wife. If you are like this, dare you confront Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming? Su Weifeng's cell phone rang. It was Qiao Yushan calling. Su Weifeng answered it casually and asked, what's wrong? Qiao Yushan called him at this time. There must be something wrong. Come to my house. HMM. Su Weifeng was a little confused. My mom and your mom just video called me and asked you to answer the call. I said you were taking a shower, but they said we could talk after you finished taking a shower. Su Weifeng's face darkened immediately, and he said, "Okay, I'll be there in a minute." After hanging up the phone, Xu Lingling immediately asked, "Your girlfriend?" "Yeah." Su Weifeng did not deny it, lest Xu Lingling pester him. "I really want to see who your girlfriend is. Let's talk about it later, when we have a chance." Driving the car to the gate of Qiao Yushan's residential area, Su Weifeng got out of the car directly. "Contact us when you have time." Xu Lingling leaned out and shouted. Su Weifeng waved his hand and went straight into the residential area. As soon as there was a knock on the door, Qiao Yushan opened it directly, breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "You are finally here." Su Weifeng made Qiao Yushan laugh and said, "It seems that you are being forced into a corner." Qiao Yushan said depressedly, "Yes, the two of them are studying the decoration and have to ask our opinions. I said to talk about it tomorrow, but they insisted on talking tonight. I said to talk to me alone, but they disagreed and had to talk to both of us together." Su Weifeng shook his head and said, "My mother has enough to bear alone, and now there are two mothers, which is even more enough for us." Qiao Yushan also smiled bitterly and said, "Yes, it's really a headache. By the way, there are no pajamas for you here. How can you pretend to have just taken a shower? I can just go shirtless." Su Weifeng said, "Oh, that's true. Men basically don't wear pajamas after taking a shower. Then you go and clean up." Su Weifeng went to wash his face, then took off his coat and sat on the sofa in the living room with Qiao Yushan shirtless. Qiao Yushan said, "Please come closer to me." "Well, it's better if I put my arm around your shoulders." Qiao Yushan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Su Weifeng stretched out his arm and put it on Qiao Yushan's shoulders. Qiao Yushan's reaction was surprisingly calm, without the kind of body tension that one would imagine. Qiao Yushan took a breath, made her expression as natural as possible, and then sent a video invitation. The video was quickly connected, and Song Yuru and Shenji's two mothers appeared in the video. "Yushan, Weifeng, we have this idea, what do you think?" Listening to the two mothers talking non-stop, Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan could only pretend to listen seriously, and had to interject from time to time, otherwise it would seem that they were not paying attention. This chat lasted for more than half an hour, and it was already past 12 o'clock when the video was hung up. Su Weifeng breathed a sigh of relief, stood up and said, "Finally, I fooled you, I'm leaving." Qiao Yushan said, "It's so late, why don't you sleep here tonight?" Chapter 162 Big Misunderstanding. "But," Qiao Yushan said awkwardly, "although I have two bedrooms here, only one room has a bed." "This," Su Weifeng said directly, "It's okay. I'll sleep on the sofa. I think your sofa is also very comfortable." Qiao Yushan was relieved immediately, and then apologized. "I'm sorry. Although the two of us have lived in the same bed before, it was all forced. If I sleep with you without pressure, I really can't bear it." "It's okay." Su Weifeng showed a bright smile and said, "I completely understand. It's good that you can take me in and not be afraid that I will do something bad to you." Seeing that Su Weifeng was really not angry, Qiao Yushan also smiled and said, "How can I not know this?" The two talked for a while, and Qiao Yushan found a toothbrush and towel for Su Weifeng, and Su Weifeng took a bath at Qiao Yushan's house. Qiao Yushan didn't say that she had misophobia, but she was not used to others using her things, and the bathroom was a more private place for a woman. But when Su Weifeng was taking a shower, Qiao Yushan didn't have any resistance. "Maybe I've used his bathroom before, so I'm used to sharing things." Obviously, this can only be one reason, which made Qiao Yushan secretly shake her head. The relationship between the two of them now, although they are fake lovers, seems to be very close, at least much closer than the relationship between ordinary boyfriends and girlfriends. The sofa in Qiao Yushan's house is really good, but it is not as comfortable as the bed after all. Su Weifeng woke up just after dawn and went to the bathroom directly. While sitting on the toilet, footsteps were heard outside. It was obvious that Qiao Yushan had also gotten up, but Su Weifeng didn't care. The footsteps were getting closer and closer to the bathroom door, but Su Weifeng still didn't take it seriously. After all, a room is so small, it's normal to pass by the bathroom door. Swish. But as the bathroom door was opened, Su Weifeng finally lost his composure. Qiao Yushan didn't even knock on the door and just opened the bathroom door. It would have been fine if she had just opened the door, but she didn't even bother to check what was going on inside and just walked in. Su Weifeng's eyes widened and his brain short-circuited for a moment. What was going on? Qiao Yushan was trying to seduce him. What almost made Su Weifeng drop his jaw was that Qiao Yushan actually walked directly towards him, getting closer and closer to him, about to bump into him. Her eyes were still closed, and it was obvious that she hadn't woken up yet, and she just went to the bathroom subconsciously. Su Weifeng instantly understood why this happened. At this time, if he reminded Qiao Yushan, it would definitely make the two of them extremely embarrassed. Su Weifeng immediately made a decision, and his body floated out sideways like a piece of catkins when Qiao Yushan was about to bump into him. But this posture was really indecent, and he hadn't even pulled up his pants yet. Su Weifeng's movements were indeed very light, but he stood up too quickly. In addition, the space in the bathroom was really limited. His feet landed firmly, and he stood up straight, but when he was pulling up his pants, his arm moved, and his elbow hit a cosmetic on the wash basin. Ding. There was a slight sound. Su Weifeng immediately cried out inwardly that something was wrong, and looked at Qiao Yushan. Qiao Yushan also opened her eyes, and looked at Su Weifeng. The two looked at each other, and both froze for a moment, as if time had stopped. Both of them froze there without moving. No. There was another sound, the sound of running water. Amid the continuous gurgling sound of the stream, Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan just stared at each other until the sound of the stream stopped. Ah! Qiao Yushan finally screamed. Su Weifeng also came to his senses in an instant, kicked his feet, and flew out like a light swallow. He finally pulled up his pants in the air and closed the bathroom door. Standing in the living room, Su Weifeng secretly said that he shouldn't have handled it this way. If he had reminded Qiao Yushan directly when she came in, the two of them would have been embarrassed for a while and then left separately. But because he didn't want to embarrass Qiao Yushan, he took an evasive approach, which made the two of them even more embarrassed. However, the scene just now kept reappearing in his mind. This scene was so beautiful and exciting. Even Su Weifeng, who had seen many storms and could face all kinds of dangers without changing his expression, was still pounding in his heart and blushing. Qiao Yushan didn't come out for more than 10 minutes. Su Weifeng was a little worried. Would Qiao Yushan be upset and get into trouble? Walking to the door, Su Weifeng knocked gently and said, "Yushan, why don't you come out? I don't have any clothes." Qiao Yushan's voice finally came out from the door, and it was clearly squeezed out from between her teeth. "Okay, I'll get it for you right away." Su Weifeng rushed into the bedroom and quickly found the pajamas thrown on the floor. He returned and knocked on the bathroom door again, saying, "I got it for you. Hand it in, just open the door a crack." "Okay." Su Weifeng hurriedly and carefully opened the bathroom door a crack, then handed the pajamas in. He hid behind the door so that he could not see inside, and Qiao Yushan would not see him. His hand felt light, and Su Weifeng withdrew his hand and closed the bathroom door again. After a while, Qiao Yushan walked out of the bathroom and walked straight towards Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng laughed dryly and said cautiously, "Yushan, can I say this is an accident?" "Accident? Then I'd like to hear your careful explanation. Why you appeared in the bathroom when I was in the bathroom. Why you still?" Qiao Yushan's teeth were instantly clenched, and her voice was extremely cold, and she said, "Are you still in that posture?" I was in the bathroom before you came in." Heh. Qiao Yushan sneered again and said, "You were in the bathroom first. What a good excuse. Just take off your pants and stand by the sink. What do you want to do?" I was on the toilet first, and when I saw you come in, I hadn't pulled up my pants yet, so I quickly made room for you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Unclear Explanation. Qiao Yushan's laughter became colder, and she said, "You really have a good excuse. Do you really think I'm stupid?" You get up and make room for me. How could I not know that? Su Weifeng's face darkened. He suddenly realized that he was too cautious. Now he had no evidence to prove his innocence. Qiao Yushan went back to her room and closed the door. Su Weifeng was very depressed. He was misunderstood and felt uncomfortable. But he thought about it again. Qiao Yushan really suffered a big loss this time. It was natural for her to be so angry. Forget it. It's hard to explain now. Let's wait for her to calm down and explain it later. Su Weifeng put on his clothes and left Qiao Yushan's house. It was only 6 o'clock now. Su Weifeng had nowhere to go, so he went to the company directly. There's someone there? As soon as Su Weifeng entered, he found that there was movement in the company and was a little surprised. Boss Su, you're here so early. Sun Yumeng stood up from her workstation with surprise on her face and then joy. You're here early too. Su Weifeng greeted her with a smile and walked straight towards her. Sun Yumeng smiled sweetly and said, I didn't have anything to do at home, so I came to the company. Su Weifeng pulled a chair and sat next to her, smiling and saying, sit down, don't be so polite to me. It's a blessing for the company to have hard-working employees like you. Sun Yumeng sat down and said gratefully, Boss Su, if it weren't for you and Boss Lin, I don't know what would have happened. Even if I did more, I couldn't repay your kindness to me. I'm afraid that my ability is not enough, and I will fail your expectations of me. Don't have any psychological burden, and don't always think about gratitude or something, otherwise you will be tired of living. We need you to have a relaxed mentality, so that you can produce good works. Yeah, I will definitely work hard. Su Weifeng knew that this little girl was very grateful. Even if she didn't say it, she would remember it in her heart. At this time, he didn't force her to change. He changed the subject and said, have you contacted your father in the past few days? Sun Yumeng nodded and said, after a chat, my dad is in a good mood and my aunt treats him very well now. But, your younger brother? Su Weifeng asked. Yes, he still plays games all day long. Now that he knows there is $500,000 at home, he doesn't want to do anything else. Su Weifeng shook his head and said, this is really terrible. A man's life is ruined if he has no idea of making money. Sun Yumeng sighed and said, yeah, although he and I have a bad relationship, he is my brother after all. I'm worried about him, but I can't say anything to him, and my dad can't control him. Everyone's life is determined by himself, even his relatives. If he wants to work hard, then there is no problem for you to help him. If he himself has no subjective idea of working hard, then you can't help him, even if you want to. Well, I know that too. Now I try not to think about him. Smiling, Sun Yumeng's eyes narrowed into a crescent again, waved her little fist, and said, now I'm very happy to work every day. Haha. Su Weifeng also infected Sun Yumeng, and said, you work so hard, we feel embarrassed if we don't work hard. The two chatted for a while, and people started to come to the company one after another. The success of the previous videos has made everyone more motivated, so many people come to the company early, and the atmosphere of the whole company is quite good. Lin Zhuangxuan also came very quickly, and went directly to Su Weifeng's office. Su Weifeng has ordered breakfast for the two of them. While drinking, the two chatted about today's work tasks. By the way, how is your new house? After finishing the business, Lin Zhuangxuan tilted his head and asked. Su Weifeng replied casually, my mother and Yushan's mother are studying how to decorate it. Lin Zhuangxuan shook his head and said helplessly, since my second aunt is here, I can't go to my aunt's house for meals. Su Weifeng smiled bitterly and said, it's not just you, I'm homeless now. Why are you homeless? Lin Zhuangxuan looked puzzled. Su Weifeng said with despair, Yushan's mother lives in my house and kicked me out. Puff. Lin Zhuangxuan laughed out loud and said, it seems that you are more pitiful than me. But he immediately blinked and said, then you can live with my sister legitimately. Su Weifeng's mouth twitched and said, yeah, at least I have a place to live. After what happened this morning, Qiao Yushan would definitely not take him in, so he could only go to the hotel tonight. Lin Zhuangxuan had no idea about the twists and turns in this, and gave Su Weifeng a disdainful look and said, I gave you the opportunity to live together, but you are still pretending to be pitiful here. I despise you. That seems to be true. Su Weifeng forced a smile. The two were joking when an employee in charge of operations ran in hurriedly. Boss Lin, Boss Su, something bad has happened. Something bad has happened. What's wrong? Su Weifeng frowned and said, don't worry, take your time. The employee said anxiously, all our videos have been blocked by the website. What? Lin Zhuangxuan screamed in shock, stood up suddenly, and then picked up the phone in a panic. Su Weifeng also picked up his phone and looked at it. Sure enough, all the videos uploaded by their company were taken down. Lin Zhuangxuan said anxiously, what's going on? Why is this happening? Don't you have a problem with the website? The employee said with a bitter face. I asked the website, and the website said that the content of the video was reported by someone and did not meet the standards, so it was taken down. Lin Zhuangxuan slammed the table and said angrily, how is this possible? There is no violation of any rules in our video. I don't know either. The employee was shocked. Su Weifeng waved his hand and said, okay, you go out first. We will handle this matter. Lin Zhuangxuan held the phone in his hand and said angrily, how could this happen? How could this happen? I want to find the website to ask for an explanation. Su Weifeng stopped Lin Zhuangxuan and said, no need to look for the website. It is obvious that we are being targeted. Targeted? Who is targeting us? Competitors? But there is absolutely no problem with the content of our company. Even if it is reported, the website has no reason to block our videos. Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, I know who is targeting us. Chapter 164 Avengers coming. Who? Lin Zhuangxuan clenched his fists and said ferociously, I'll kill him. Su Weifeng laughed and said, no need for you to come out. I'll take care of them. Seeing Su Weifeng so relaxed, Lin Zhuangxuan also relaxed a little and said, who did the bad thing? Su Weifeng said, it's very simple. It's the two scumbags I beat that night, and only they have such great power. Lin Zhuangxuan said in surprise, they can actually control the video website? Su Weifeng said, video websites with assets of tens of billions are naturally not something they can control, but with their power, it is still very easy to ask the website to ban someone. Lin Zhuangxuan's mouth twitched twice, and he said with a wry smile, oh my god. Then haven't we stirred up a hornet's nest? Can you deal with people with such great power? Su Weifeng snorted and said, in our country, it doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want just because you are powerful. Everything must be based on the law. No matter how powerful they are, it is useless. I say Weifeng, even if I don't understand these rich people and upper class people, I also know roughly that their power is quite large, and the problem cannot be solved by law. Su Weifeng patted Lin Zhuangxuan on the shoulder and said, don't worry, I know what's going on. You should shoot your video. In less than 2 days, I will solve this matter. Lin Zhuangxuan met Su Weifeng's determined eyes, shook his head, and said, besides trusting you now, do I have any other way? Go, do your thing. Lin Zhuangxuan was about to go out, and there was some chaotic sound outside, and then the footsteps of a group of people came here. Haha, these two guys actually took the initiative to come to the door. Su Weifeng showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Who? The two guys you said you beat? Lin Zhuangxuan immediately understood. While talking, several people had already arrived at Su Weifeng's office, led by Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming. What are you doing here? Lin Zhuangxuan immediately asked rudely. Mi Xiangang glanced at Lin Zhuangxuan wantonly, smacked his lips, and said, I thought your company was so big, but it turns out to be such a small company. I don't feel any sense of accomplishment if I kill you. Although Lin Zhuangxuan already knew that this was done by these two guys, he was still furious when he saw Mi Xiangang came up and said it directly. What kind of ability do you have? If you want to compete, compete fairly and shoot your good things instead of using such despicable means. Mi Xiangang shook his finger and said, you are wrong. I'm not competing with you. I just want your company to die. This kid dared to hit me, and I just want him to know how miserable the end will be if he hits me. Qiao Qingming sneered and said, do you really think that we, the children of big families, are vegetarians and will just hit you? You are so naive. If we want to deal with you, we have too many means. Mi Xiangang patted Qiao Qingming on the shoulder and said, let's play with them slowly. I want to see what you can do if your company can't release any of the things it shoots. I want to watch you lose money bit by bit. Qiao Qingming laughed and said, that's right. We want to see them get anxious like ants on the stove and finally have to kneel down and beg for mercy from us. Lin Zhuangxuan's face turned pale and he gritted his teeth and said, you'd better stop this behavior immediately, otherwise I will sue you. Oh, I'm so scared. Mi Xiangang immediately made a very scared expression, then turned to his companions and said, sue us? Haha, what did you hear? This pretty girl is going to sue us. Haha. Everyone laughed immediately. Qiao Qingming couldn't help laughing and said, you little girl are really naive. Then you can go ahead and sue. Do you want us to help you find a lawyer? Don't worry, we will definitely find you a very famous lawyer. Haha. Everyone laughed mockingly again. Su Weifeng held Lin Zhuangxuan and said calmly, have you finished talking? What can you do? Qiao Qingming stiffened his neck and glared at Su Weifeng fiercely. What? Still want to fight? Mi Xianggang's face suddenly darkened and he gritted his teeth and said, boy, come on, try to touch me again. Su Weifeng looked at the other 4 people brought by the two. Each of these 4 people was burly, with a calm face, and a restrained murderous aura all over their bodies. These 4 people are the top masters of the Huang family. They usually protect the most important people of the Huang family and don't show up easily. In order to win over the Mi family, the Huang family specially sent these 4 most powerful masters together this time. Qiao Qingming sneered and said, do you think you are good at fighting? Then you can try again. Come on, this time I can guarantee that, as long as you take action, you will never see the sun tomorrow. He had such confidence. Even if he knew that Su Weifeng was powerful, he didn't think he could be as powerful as the most powerful bodyguard in his family, let alone 4 people together. Just them? Su Weifeng sneered. With a simple judgment, Su Weifeng knew that these 4 people were indeed not weak. Each of them should be stronger than that little 6, but so what? In his eyes, these people were still weak. You are so arrogant. Mi Xiangang smiled at Su Weifeng sarcastically. Su Weifeng said impatiently, if you have finished talking, you can get out. Do you have the guts to say what you just said again? Mi Xiangang immediately glared angrily. Qiao Qingming glared and yelled, do you believe me? I will destroy your company right now. Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes, then walked straight towards the few people and said, it seems that you don't plan to leave by yourselves. What do you want to do? Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming retreated quickly and directly retreated behind the 4 bodyguards. They still remembered Su Weifeng's ferocity last time. It was okay to fight with such a ruthless person, but if they really wanted to fight, it would be better to let the bodyguards go. Since you don't want to leave by yourselves, then I have to throw you out. Bold. The 4 bodyguards took a step forward. They really had never seen such an arrogant person who dared to be so presumptuous in front of them. Chapter 165. Fists are the key to solving problems. Take care of him. Kill this bastard. Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming hid behind and roared angrily. A bodyguard said in a deep voice, young man, apologize to Master Huang and Master Mi immediately, otherwise, we will not be polite. Su Weifeng looked at the bodyguard and said slowly, you all retired from the army, right? Yes. The bodyguard was a little surprised, but nodded. Then do you remember why you were trained in the army? Su Weifeng suddenly glared and shouted, you were trained to defend the country, not to let you do evil for a few private individuals. The 4 bodyguards were all shocked by Su Weifeng's loud shout. This feeling was like being scolded by the superior in the army, and they subconsciously straightened their bodies. Are you a soldier? The bodyguard who spoke first stared at Su Weifeng and asked in a deep voice. Su Weifeng snorted and said, you are not worthy of mentioning the word soldier to me. Once you become a soldier, you will be a soldier for the rest of your life. Your behavior has lost the dignity of a soldier. The 4 bodyguards all blushed. If they were just bodyguards and only protected the safety of their employers, it would be fine. However, in such a big family, they not only have the responsibility of protection, but also have to do all kinds of bad things on a regular basis. Why are you talking to him? Beat him up for me. Fuck, what are you doing? What do you care about soldiers or not? Don't forget that you are the bodyguard of our Huang family now. You bastard, not only did you beat me, but you also robbed my fiancée. I have an irreconcilable hatred with you. Come on, break his legs for me first. Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang both roared angrily. The bodyguard was urged anxiously, gritted his teeth, and said, I'm sorry, we take money from people, so we have to do things that are worthy of the money. Then he rushed directly towards Su Weifeng. Go together. Qiao Qingming shouted again from behind. The other three also rushed up directly. Su Weifeng snorted coldly, and his body swayed. The opponent's fist had already brushed his cheek and missed. Before the opponent could change his moves, he had already bullied into the opponent's arms, and with a push of his shoulder, he hit the opponent's chest heavily. The bodyguard had never expected Su Weifeng's reaction speed to be so fast. He was a little careless, and was seriously injured. His chest was just like being hit by a tank. The huge force pushed him directly away. His mouth was salty, and he almost spit out blood. Su Weifeng knocked one person away with one move, and the other three were immediately horrified. The strength of the four of them was basically the same. If one of them was not good, it meant that the others were about the same. I really didn't expect that the opponent's strength was so strong. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to complete this task today. However, they have been in the Huang family for many years, and have long been accustomed to doing things for the Huang family. With Qiao Qingming supervising the battle from behind, they had to fight, even if they were all knocked down. But even if 3 people came together, there would be basically no difference. In Su Weifeng's eyes, their level was just like that, and dealing with them was no different from dealing with those thugs on the street. Because of the huge difference in strength, those thugs were like 3 or 4-year-old children in Su Weifeng's eyes. These people were only 6 or 7 years old. They were all children, so even if there were more of them, they would still be easily beaten down. Soon, all 4 of them were lying on the ground. Su Weifeng still took into account that they were all military backgrounds and did not use heavy hands. Otherwise these people would not only lose their combat effectiveness. Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang were both dumbfounded at this time. Last time, they only brought one Zhao Liuzi who was a master, so he was beaten by Su Weifeng. This time, they directly brought people who were stronger than Zhao Liuzi, and there were 4 of them. They felt that they would be very sure this time. But they didn't know that it was useless, and they were still killed by Su Weifeng in seconds. This also made them realize for the first time that the combat effectiveness of the Su Weifeng in front of them was too strong. The noise here attracted all the employees in the company, especially the male colleagues. When they heard that someone had come to the company to cause trouble, they were ready to pick up weapons and fight. However, when they arrived here, they saw 4 people curled up on the ground, and Su Weifeng was still standing there. Boss Su. Su Weifeng waved his hand and said, you guys go back to work, I'll take care of the things here. Those people hesitated for a moment, and Sun Yumeng hurriedly said, let's go to work. If we do our work well, we will help Boss Su. Sun Yumeng is very close to Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangsun. Recently, she is more or less a celebrity in the company. Although Sun Yumeng has never had any sense of superiority in front of her colleagues, and is still very humble, everyone knows what she said, so her words still have some weight. Everyone dispersed and went back. Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming also wanted to take the opportunity to escape. But as soon as they turned around, they found that Su Weifeng had arrived in front of them without knowing when. The 2 of them retreated back in fear, with both hands protecting their faces. What are you going to do? Su Weifeng sneered and said, you guys are good at remembering a beating, and you still know how to protect your face. Yes. Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang nodded repeatedly, but their hands were still on their faces, fearing that Su Weifeng would slap them in the face the next moment. Without bodyguards, they instantly realized that they were nothing. Those threats seemed to be useless in the face of the other party's violence. Su Weifeng snorted and said, but I think your memory is not good. I said last time that you'd better not provoke me again. If you provoke me, I won't let you go so easily. The 2 retreated little by little. Their faces were extremely pale. They were not tough people. Usually, relying on their status, no one dared to touch them, but once others did not take their status seriously, and they were isolated and helpless, they found that they were really nothing. Su Weifeng pushed the two men to the desk. Then he stood still, then pulled over a chair and sat down, crossed his legs, and said, "Tell me, how do we solve this problem?" Seeing that Su Weifeng had no intention of taking action, Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang looked at each other and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Qiao Qingming asked tentatively, "How do you say we should solve this problem?" Su Weifeng glared and said, "Should I ask you, or should you ask me?" Chapter 166. Good management. When you are under someone's roof, why don't you bow your head? Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming both felt this way now. This feeling was very aggrieved and made them very unhappy. But they really didn't dare to say anything hard at this time, otherwise the other party would slap them in the face. They had tasted this feeling before and didn't want to taste it again. We will contact the website immediately to restore your video. Mi Xiangang hesitated for a moment and finally said a condition first. He was very angry in his heart. This was a method they thought was very good, but they had just used it and they had to take it back. Su Weifeng said slowly, "The video on our website was blocked and the loss was great. Then we will compensate you and give you money." Qiao Qingming quickly added. Su Weifeng glared and said, "Do you think we care about your money? Then what do you want?" Qiao Qingming looked bitter. Su Weifeng glanced at the two of them, which made them feel uneasy. Then he said, "It's very simple. As compensation, you need to give us a few more recommendation positions." "Okay, no problem, no problem." Mi Xiangang quickly agreed. This was a generous gesture, and it was just a matter of a few phone calls. Su Weifeng said coldly, "Then you can do it now. Don't tell me that you can't do it now, otherwise you can stay here and work for my company." Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming really wanted to fool Su Weifeng first, and then they would not care about it after they left. If they were not in front of Su Weifeng, they would not be afraid. But Su Weifeng directly blocked their way, and Mi Xiangang had to take out his phone to arrange this matter. After a while, Lin Zhuangxuan took out her mobile phone, and sure enough, she swiped the video of their company again. "Now, can we leave?" Qiao Qingming asked cautiously. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "You guys are so simple-minded. I just reminded you that, if you come to trouble me again, I won't let you go so easily." Mi Xiangang was about to cry and said loudly, "What do you want? Tell us how much money you want, and we'll give you the money. As long as money can solve the problem, it's not a big deal for him, as long as he doesn't get beaten again." Su Weifeng touched his chin and said, "People like you, if I'll let you go this time, you will definitely keep bothering me. I'm not afraid of you, but I also hate being remembered by a dog all day long. How about this?" Su Weifeng looked at Lin Zhuangxuan and said, "Zhuangxuan, use your creativity. Let's make a film for them. The kind that will ruin their reputation when it is shown to others." Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang were both tense all of a sudden. What are they going to do? What will ruin their reputation? Lin Zhuangxuan touched his chin and said, "I think these people don't care about other things, but they should care about their reputation, especially their families. It's better to take a picture of their sexual orientation." Puff. Su Weifeng just drank a mouthful of water, and the water sprayed all over Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming in front of him. Qiao Qingming and Mi Xiangang didn't care about this at all, and immediately shouted angrily, "This won't work." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Seeing that you are so strongly opposed, I think this idea is really good. Let's do it." Mi Xiangang said anxiously, "No, if this gets out, we will be too ashamed to see people in the future." Su Weifeng sneered and said, "If you are not afraid, how can I control you? Don't cause me trouble in the future. I won't announce it. You'd better cooperate obediently, otherwise I don't mind asking them to cooperate obediently." Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming immediately understood the meaning of Su Weifeng's words. If they didn't agree, Su Weifeng would use his fists. After looking at each other, the two could only nod with sad faces. At this time, the four bodyguards had already climbed up. Su Weifeng looked at them coldly and said, "Wait here obediently. You can leave after we finish the business." Then he directly grabbed Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming and walked out. Lin Zhuangxuan hurriedly walked in. When they got to the hall, Su Weifeng clapped his hands and called everyone over, saying, "Come on, let's take a break today. Let's shoot an important film first. Now I will introduce two new actors to you. For the sake of art, they have given up their self-esteem and dignity to do things for the majority of gays. Now please brainstorm and open up your ideas to see how to shoot a film that will leave a deep impression on people. Everyone was stunned at first, and then they all laughed. This was definitely a scam, and everyone wanted to scam those bad guys. This film must be shot beautifully so that people can feel that they are in true love. In addition to true love, they must also love and hate each other. I feel that there must be some intimate scenes in this, and we can even have a sex scene. Otherwise it won't be exciting enough. Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming's faces turned green. Damn, they still have to shoot intimate scenes, and whether to shoot a sex scene, they might as well kill them. Su Weifeng laughed and said, "We are a formal company. We can shoot intimate scenes, but forget about sex scenes." Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as they don't shoot sex scenes, it's better. There is no need for a script for this kind of video. Everyone just pushed the two guys into the studio and started shooting. One person has an idea to shoot something, and the next person has an idea and shoots another one. Anyway, everyone's goal is to toss these two guys, no matter how disgusting it is. That's right. And then there is no need to consider whether it is shot wrong. This is basically a game. Filming is simply a great pleasure. Who can not be happy? In total, 6 or 7 videos were made for the two of them, including everything from ancient times to the present, both at home and abroad. Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming felt that they were really going to die, mainly because of the humiliation in their hearts. They felt that this would definitely leave a shadow on their lives. The two of them came to Su Weifeng again as if exhausted. Mi Xianggang said tremblingly, "You can't send these videos out." Su Weifeng said lightly, "If you remember, don't bother me in the future, and I won't bother you either." "But, there are so many people, if someone sends it out privately." Qiao Qingming looked bitter. He was really scared. If this got out, it would definitely be a big loss of face for his family, and his position in the family would definitely be lost in the future. "Do you think the people in our company are as shameless as you? Get out of here. It's an eyesore to look at you." Chapter 167 Sparks Flying. Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming left with 4 bodyguards in disgrace, and there was still a heated discussion in the company. Who are these two people? I heard that they are sons of some family. Anyway, they are quite powerful. They were the ones who took Sun Yumeng away that day. At that time, President Su did not say how he brought Sun Yumeng back. Now think about it. It must be not simple. Oh my god, our President Su is so domineering. He can play with such a rich and powerful person in the palm of his hand. The video that was just blocked was unblocked in the blink of an eye. You haven't seen anything more domineering. Those 4 bodyguards were all beaten down by President Su alone. It's over. I'm now a die-hard fan of President Su. PFFT, you are so brave. Be careful that President Lin will fire you. I'm a fan of President Su, and I didn't say I want to be President Su's girlfriend. President Su is such an excellent man. Only our President Lin can match him. Everyone felt that the company had a future in the past, but now Su Weifeng's performance this time has simply created a strong cohesive force. However, Su Weifeng was not as domineering as others imagined. He faced Lin Zhuangxuan with a bitter face. Lin Zhuangxuan hugged his shoulders, stared at Su Weifeng with unfriendly eyes, and said, "Comrade Su Weifeng, I want to ask, you stole someone's fiancé. Who is this fiancé?" Su Weifeng's face turned black, and he said, "That guy is talking nonsense." "Nonsense?" Lin Zhuangxuan glared and said, "Do you really think I'm stupid?" Which man is willing to admit that he was cuckolded, especially people of such status as them? Su Weifeng hurriedly said, "That is not his fiancé either. This is what happened. Let me tell you again." Su Weifeng told how he met Xu Lingling and how he helped her. After listening to this, Lin Zhuangxuan doubtfully said, "You really have nothing to do with her?" Su Weifeng hurriedly said, "Of course we have nothing to do with each other. We can't even be called friends. We just happened to meet by chance." Lin Zhuangxuan snorted and said, "You'd better not lie to me, or you're dead." "How can I lie about this? This is a matter of principle." Su Weifeng vowed. Lin Zhuangxuan nodded in satisfaction, and then a smile suddenly appeared on his face, saying, "You look really handsome today." Su Weifeng saw that Lin Zhuangxuan had changed the subject, and he also relaxed. He straightened his chest and said, "Of course, but I think the idea of the film you asked them to shoot is even cooler." Lin Zhuangxuan also laughed triumphantly. Su Weifeng said at this time, "Let me keep the things you filmed. These things, although they can threaten them, I'm also afraid that they will do something desperate." Lin Zhuangxuan frowned and said, "Do you think they will not give up?" Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "I don't think they dare, but we should always be on guard. People's hearts are the most difficult to guess. Oh, this kind of people is really annoying." In fact, they took the initiative to come to the door, and this way of dealing with it is already the simplest. The two chatted for a few more sentences, and then Lin Zhuangxuan had something to do, so he started to get busy. The video was restored, and the company also resumed normal operation. Su Weifeng was also busy with the things he was responsible for. When it was almost noon, there was a knock on the door. Su Weifeng said without raising his head, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and someone walked in, with the aroma of food. It was obviously the food that was ordered. The company employees brought it to him. Su Weifeng then said, "Just put the things down." But the other party did not leave, and walked directly to his desk, and put 2 boxes on the table. Su Weifeng raised his head. Standing in front of the table was a girl with big bright eyes and short golden hair. She put her hands behind her back, stood up straight, and had a teasing smile on her face. Who else could it be but Xu Lingling? "Why are you here?" Su Weifeng was also very surprised. Xu Lingling's smile became even brighter, and she said, "I'm here to bring you lunch." "Are you so kind?" Su Weifeng looked at Xu Lingling suspiciously. "You helped me so much, and I'm bringing you lunch as a token of my appreciation." As she spoke, Xu Lingling opened a box and said, "This is the assorted meat made by the chef of Fengj. Try it and see if it tastes good." Su Weifeng stood up and said, "Okay, thank you. I'll eat it later. If you have nothing to do, go back first." "What are you doing? I just arrived, and you're chasing me away." Xu Lingling pouted, quite dissatisfied. Su Weifeng had just been taught a lesson by Lin Zhuangxuan. If Lin Zhuangxuan saw Xu Lingling here at this moment, he would be furious. He hurried over to pull Xu Lingling's arm and said, "I really don't have time to play with you." Xu Lingling shook her arm and said, "Okay, then I'm kind enough to bring you food, but I have to see you eat a bite before I leave, right? You'll leave after you eat a bite, right?" Su Weifeng immediately asked. "You'll leave after you eat a bite?" Xu Lingling looked resentful and said, "I'm so disliked by you that you want to drive me away." As she said that, she didn't use chopsticks anymore. She stretched out 2 fingers, pinched a piece of meat, and put it to Su Weifeng's mouth. Su Weifeng now had only one thought, which was to drive Xu Lingling away quickly, so he didn't care about so much at this time, and ate it in his mouth. But at this moment, a figure flashed in the door, and Su Weifeng was petrified. It turned out to be Lin Zhuangxuan who came in. Su Weifeng quickly dodged and retreated behind the table, and said anxiously, "Zhuangxuan, I." Lin Zhuangxuan interrupted Su Weifeng directly, snorted, and said, "Is it fragrant?" "Not fragrant." Su Weifeng answered straightforwardly. "If it's not fragrant, why do you eat it?" Lin Zhuangxuan immediately stared. "Pa." Su Weifeng directly spit the meat in his mouth into the trash can and said, "I didn't eat it." Su Weifeng's actions finally made Lin Zhuangxuan's expression ease a little, and his eyes turned to Xu Lingling's face. Xu Lingling also looked at Lin Zhuangxuan, and their eyes intertwined. It was simply sparks flying, but the temperature in the room seemed to be frozen to the extreme at once. Su Weifeng hurriedly said, "Zhuangxuan, this is Xu Lingling I told you about today. Xu Lingling, this is my girlfriend Lin Zhuangxuan." While speaking, Su Weifeng had already walked to Lin Zhuangxuan's side and directly hugged her shoulders. Although Lin Zhuangxuan twisted her body a little, she still let him hold her in his arms. After all, Su Weifeng was making his position clear, which somewhat comforted Lin Zhuangxuan. Chapter 168 Two Women Fighting. This made Lin Zhuangxuan's face show a victorious attitude, and she said, "Miss Xu Lingling, Su Weifeng is already taken, so don't think about him anymore." Xu Lingling's tense face suddenly relaxed at this moment, and she chuckled and said, "So what? There are divorces after marriage, not to mention that you are not married yet, so I have the right to pursue him. Lin Zhuangxuan got angry when she heard it and said, do you have any shame? He already has a girlfriend and you still come to mess it up. Can you have some shame? Xu Lingling raised her chin and said, meeting such an outstanding man is an opportunity given to me by God, and I will never give up such an opportunity. I will not give up. Seeing you so nervous, do you have no confidence in yourself? Lin Zhuangxuan felt that if she got angry at this time, she would seem a little guilty. She curled her lips in disdain and said, humph, it's useless to use provocation. This is already mine. Why should I let others snatch it away? Xu Lingling said slowly, since you have confidence, why are you afraid of my pursuit? If the relationship between you is really so unbreakable, no matter how hard I try, it will be useless. But if I just snatch him away casually, it only means that he doesn't like you that much, and the relationship between you is not that good. Lin Zhuangxuan sneered and said, what you said is just an excuse for your own filthiness and shamelessness. Do you think I can't see it? But Xu Lingling, the point of this matter is on Weifeng. If Weifeng doesn't like your pursuit, why do you humiliate yourself? Xu Lingling was certainly not stupid enough to ask Su Weifeng whether to give her a chance. She glanced at Su Weifeng and said, I admit that he doesn't like me now, but that's because he hasn't discovered the shining points in me, and hasn't realized that we are more suitable together. But after getting along for a while, I believe he will understand that I'm the one for him. Su Weifeng immediately said, Xu Lingling, you'd better not have such thoughts, otherwise we can't even be friends. A friend should at least consider each other. If you just want to make things difficult for each other, then you are definitely not a good friend. His face became hot, and Lin Zhuangxuan's soft lips actually touched his face, which made Su Weifeng stunned. Although the two of them had some intimate actions, this kind of kissing was definitely the first time. Turning to look at Lin Zhuangxuan smiled and said, well said, this is a reward for you. Su Weifeng smiled, a little silly. Xu Lingling looked at the two people showing their affection, and her face became ugly, saying, do you have fun using such means? Humph, anyway, I will not give up, I will definitely take him away. After saying that, Xu Lingling walked directly to the door. Su Weifeng finally breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Zhuangxuan, right? Actually, I came here just to express my gratitude to him, but your attitude has successfully angered me, so I must snatch your boyfriend away. Then he left arrogantly. Asshole. Lin Zhuangxuan was furious and turned around to chase Xu Lingling and fight. Su Weifeng hurriedly hugged her tightly and said, calm down, ignore her. We are cultured people and can't argue with girls like her who are like gangsters. Lin Zhuangxuan struggled and said angrily, let go. Gangsters are great. I must let her understand that snatching other people's boyfriends is a heinous crime. Su Weifeng simply picked her up and sat directly on the sofa. Lin Zhuangxuan struggled a few more times and suddenly calmed down. Don't be angry, don't be angry, come on, I'll help you calm down. Su Weifeng patted Lin Zhuangxuan's back with his palm. Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly pushed Su Weifeng hard. Su Weifeng thought Lin Zhuangxuan wanted to find Xu Lingling, so he hugged her tightly and said, my aunt, I have made my position clear. Why can't you believe me? It's not that I don't believe you, but you, how long are you going to hold me? Lin Zhuangxuan's face turned red at this time. Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment, and then he realized that he not only hugged Lin Zhuangxuan, but also let Lin Zhuangxuan sit on his lap. The posture between the two was really ambiguous. Then he quickly threw Lin Zhuangxuan onto the sofa next to him and said awkwardly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Lin Zhuangxuan was really thrown out and was caught off guard. He fell on the sofa in a mess, struggled to sit up, and said with gritted teeth, you didn't mean it just now, but now, you did it on purpose. Su Weifeng's face turned black, and he quickly pulled Lin Zhuangxuan, saying apologetically, Zhuangxuan, this. Lin Zhuangxuan rubbed his lower back with his other hand and said angrily, what do you mean, you bastard? You took advantage of me and then killed the donkey after I've done my job. I've never seen such a bastard like you. Did you hurt your waist? Let me take a look at it for you. Don't break it. Go away. Lin Zhuangxuan fiercely shook off Su Weifeng's hand, but seeing the nervous expression on Su Weifeng's face, he still showed a satisfied smile. Su Weifeng said seriously. Really, don't you need me to massage you? You know, my massage technique is very powerful, and I can help you solve most minor problems. Wait a minute, I have something to do now. You can massage me after dinner. If you don't massage well, then I won't forgive you. Lin Zhuangxuan said fiercely, then stood up and walked out. Su Weifeng let out a long breath, and then rubbed his forehead. In the past, he just wanted to find a fake girlfriend to deal with his mother, but now, someone is chasing him, which is really a headache. He raised his hand and touched his face and had to admit that he really enjoyed being kissed by Lin Zhuangxuan just now. At this time, WeChat on his mobile phone rang. Su Weifeng, I'm not kidding. I'm serious. I want to pursue you. It was a WeChat message from Xu Lingling. Su Weifeng's face darkened, hesitated for a moment, and simply replied, I don't like you. Sometimes direct rejection is more effective than gentle persuasion, and it is less hurtful. If you persuade someone with gentle words, it will easily make them feel that there is still a chance, which will make them fall deeper. If you refuse directly at that time, it will hurt them. Although it will seem very rude and difficult for people to accept, when you refuse directly, at least you will not let people fall into it, which is also a responsible behavior. Chapter 169 Treating Lin Zhuangxuan. After lunch, Lin Zhuangxuan rubbed her waist without saying anything. Su Weifeng understood and said, lie down, I'll give you a good massage. I promise you won't have any problems. HMPH, don't talk big, it doesn't work at all in the end. Lin Zhuangxuan raised her chin proudly and then lay down on the sofa in the office. When the office was originally arranged, the two did not make a bed in their office, but just a set of sofas, so that they could entertain guests and rest. Su Weifeng was about to sit down, and Lin Zhuangxuan immediately said, go and close the door of the office. Do you want others to see it? Su Weifeng muttered, it's just a massage, let them see it, and we are two men and women alone. It's not good to close a door in broad daylight and let others think we are doing something. Nonsense, everyone thinks we are a couple, even if we close the door and make love. What can others say? That's right. Su Weifeng got up to close the door, and then came back. Lin Zhuangxuan moved inside to leave some space for Su Weifeng, and then he sat on the outside of her thigh and said, then I'll start. Lin Zhuangxuan said carelessly, go ahead and massage. It's just a massage, but you're acting like you're going to do something bad. Su Weifeng laughed and pressed his hands on Lin Zhuangxuan's waist through her clothes. He immediately felt the muscles in Lin Zhuangxuan's waist tighten. Relax, relax, this will work better. Su Weifeng's voice was very gentle, and his palms were rubbing slowly, and Lin Zhuangxuan's muscles slowly relaxed. After pressing a few times, Su Weifeng said, your waist muscles are still very strong. Lin Zhuangxuan said proudly, that's right, I used to exercise regularly. Well, you're good at skateboarding, but recently my muscles have shown signs of relaxation. You should move. Lin Zhuangxuan said in surprise, you can feel this too? If I can't even feel it, can I still be considered a master? You're really good at bragging. Lin Zhuangxuan said with contempt, and then said, the company has been so busy recently, from morning to night, how can I have time to exercise? I think our company still has some spare space, so why not get 2 simple fitness equipment in the company, so that everyone can exercise during their free time at work. This can also be regarded as a benefit of the company, which can make employees feel more comfortable. Lin Zhuangxuan immediately agreed and said, this is a good idea, but for things like this, you can do it as you see fit. Aren't you the boss of our company? As a deputy, I have to ask for your instructions. Lin Zhuangxuan spat and said angrily, go to hell. You can fool others with such words, but you are so hypocritical to say this to me. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, okay, I will arrange it later. Ouch, this place hurts a little. Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly cried out. Su Weifeng immediately pressed the places he had pressed just now and asked, is it here? Yes, it's here. Lin Zhuangxuan agreed repeatedly. This place. Su Weifeng frowned slightly and said, this place is not a muscle problem, but a meridian connected to the brain nerves. Have you been staying up late recently and have some insomnia? Yes, you are really an expert. You can also feel this? Lin Zhuangxuan turned his head with a strong surprise on his face. Su Weifeng rolled his eyes at Lin Zhuangxuan and said, "You still doubt me now? I really don't know how to despise you." Lin Zhuangxuan stuck out her tongue and said, "What should I do? I don't want to have a bad sleep either. It feels very uncomfortable." Su Weifeng frowned slightly and said, "When you sleep with me, you sleep well every time. PFFT. The expression on Lin Zhuangxuan's face suddenly became very interesting, and then she glared at Su Weifeng fiercely and said, "You said I'm short of men. If I find a man to sleep with me now, I'll be fine?" "No." Su Weifeng couldn't help laughing and said, "But you may lack a sense of security when you sleep alone." "Nonsense. I've been thinking about too many things recently, so my brain should always be in an excited state, so it's hard to fall asleep." Su Weifeng nodded and said, "It's not a big problem. I'll clear your meridians. Put your phone aside and don't look at it before going to bed tonight, and you should be able to sleep well." Lin Zhuangxuan nodded and said, "What else to say? Just press it." However, feeling that Su Weifeng did not make a move, Lin Zhuangxuan turned her head again and said, "What's wrong?" "This," Su Weifeng said somewhat embarrassedly, "because this is not just about massaging the muscles, but also about smoothing the meridians, so I have to lift up my clothes." Lin Zhuangxuan rolled his eyes and said, "PFFT, you are not taking advantage of me, are you?" Then he shook his head and said, "I've slept with you. Am I still afraid of this?" "Whatever." Su Weifeng pouted and said, "Can we not be so blunt? It's easy to make people misunderstand. Tell me, have we slept together? Isn't that a fact?" Okay, this cannot be denied." The two joked for a while, and then Su Weifeng lifted up Lin Zhuangxuan's coat. Lin Zhuangxuan was very cooperative and just leaned forward to make it easier for Su Weifeng to take action. In fact, in front of Su Weifeng, Lin Zhuangxuan really had nothing to be embarrassed about. The sense of sexual barrier was also very weak. After all, they had slept in the same bed before, so this kind of physical contact was child's play, and she really didn't care. Su Weifeng just said it lightly, but in fact, Lin Zhuangxuan's problem was quite serious. Her meridians were somewhat blocked. If it continued for a long time, it would be very harmful to the body. In mild cases, she would suffer from insomnia every day, and in severe cases, it would cause damage to the brain, slow down people's reactions, and other complicated disadvantages. So when dredging Lin Zhuangxuan's meridians, Su Weifeng was also very serious. "Hey, did you get something into my body?" Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly turned around and asked, but why was the question so ambiguous? "Yes, it's true Qi. Real Qi. Gosh, I was wondering how you were so good at fighting. It turns out the true Qi mentioned in martial arts novels really exists." Lin Zhuangxuan's eyes lit up, and he said, "Is it really as powerful as it is said in the novels?" "No way. A person's true strength lies in the muscles and bones of the body. True Qi only makes the muscles more explosive and the reaction speed faster. The idea that a skinny guy can burst out with great fighting power is pure nonsense." "Oh, that's also magical, like a little bug crawling around." Giggle, "So itchy." Lin Zhuangxuan couldn't help twisting and turning as she chuckled, causing Su Weifeng's hand to shift position, and then coincidentally, he actually picked open the strap buckle on Lin Zhuangxuan's back. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Prelude to the Storm. Lin Zhuangxuan turned her head and looked at Su Weifeng in astonishment. Su Weifeng also looked at Lin Zhuangxuan. The two looked at each other for a few seconds, and Su Weifeng quickly reached out to grab the two stretched straps, trying to buckle them. But Lin Zhuangxuan also moved at the same time, instinctively turning to the side. As a result, Su Weifeng grabbed the strap with one hand and grabbed Lin Zhuangxuan's body with the other hand. Lin Zhuangxuan's body stiffened, and the whole person was shaking slightly, and his voice suddenly became soft and weak. Su Weifeng let go instantly and stood up directly and said with a red face, "Zhuangxuan, this is really an accident." "I know." Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly buried his head in the sofa, and his arms hugged his head directly, like an ostrich with its head tucked in. Su Weifeng didn't know what to do for a moment. After a silence of more than 10 seconds, Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly turned her head, her face very red, and said, "Isn't it more convenient this way? Wouldn't it be inconvenient with a strap?" Ahem, that's true. That's what I said. Why did you untie my bra strap for no reason? Su Weifeng looked at Lin Zhuangxuan in surprise. He didn't know how to explain it. Lin Zhuangxuan actually found a good excuse for himself, but he said a little stupidly at this time, "Then I touched you just now." Lin Zhuangxuan's face turned green all of a sudden, and said, "I didn't feel it. Just massage me when I asked you to. Why are you so nosy?" Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment, then the embarrassment on his face disappeared, and he smiled gently, and said, "Well, don't move around this time. It's a little itchy, just bear with it. HMPH, you still blame me, scumbag." Lin Zhuangxuan muttered softly, and then lay there obediently again. Su Weifeng sat down next to Lin Zhuangxuan again, and once again put his hands on Lin Zhuangxuan's back, adjusted his breathing, and began to massage again. This time, Lin Zhuangxuan did not move, and Su Weifeng was also very focused. He had to be focused. If he was distracted, he would do something dirty. After more than 10 minutes, Su Weifeng raised his hand and pulled Lin Zhuangxuan's clothes down, saying, "Okay, you can sleep well tonight, but it's best to massage for the next few days so that you can get rid of the root." "Yeah." Lin Zhuangxuan agreed softly, sat up, put his hands behind his back, and muttered softly, "The service is really not in place. You can't help me button up." Su Weifeng coughed lightly, and it was not easy to respond. Lin Zhuangxuan buttoned up, raised his head, and looked at Su Weifeng, saying, "Are you tired? Why are you sweating all over?" He pulled a few tissues and handed them to Su Weifeng. "Not bad." Su Weifeng was not physically tired. This matter did not consume him at all. The most tiring thing was his spirit. In front of him was a beautiful woman. Just looking at her back could make people have wild thoughts. If he could touch her, it would be even more unbearable. The worst thing was that Lin Zhuangxuan was lying like this, so some parts of her body would inevitably be exposed from the side. Even if Su Weifeng did not look at it specifically, he could still see a little. This was definitely a temptation. If he wanted to control his emotions, the energy he had to consume was really immeasurable. Lin Zhuangxuan looked at Su Weifeng's expression and suddenly understood. Her eyes became very gentle, and she said, "Is it very uncomfortable to endure?" Su Weifeng was embarrassed when Lin Zhuangxuan pointed it out and said, "It's okay." Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly laughed and then immediately said with a serious face, "I have to endure it, even if I can't help it. I'm not Qiao Yushan. If I have anger, I will go home to Qiao Yushan to vent it." Then he stood up, twisted his waist, and then shook his head, saying, "Not bad, not bad. You are really good. From now on, I will let you be my exclusive masseur." Then he walked lightly and left Su Weifeng's office. Su Weifeng let out a long breath and sat on the sofa a little tiredly. This Lin Zhuangxuan is not only beautiful and has a good figure, but also has the kind of charm that she reveals intentionally or unintentionally, which is fatal. I really don't know who will be lucky enough to marry her in the future. It must be a blessing that has been cultivated for several lifetimes. Thinking of this, Su Weifeng suddenly felt uncomfortable, as if he was reluctant to let her go. There was a knock on the door, and Su Weifeng quickly put aside his messy thoughts and called in. It was the company's employees who came to ask for instructions on work. The afternoon work began to be busy again. Before getting off work, several things came together. Su Weifeng was busy until after 7 o'clock, and then he had time to pick up his mobile phone to check. One of the messages was actually sent by Qiao Yushan, and it was a few minutes ago. "Aren't you coming back tonight?" Su Weifeng was stunned. Is she waiting for him? Thinking of what happened this morning, Qiao Yushan was probably ready to attack him. Anyway, this matter had to be faced. Su Weifeng immediately replied, "I just finished my work and will be back soon." More than half an hour later, Su Weifeng arrived at Qiao Yushan's house. After entering the room, Qiao Yushan's expression was not so cold. She turned around and walked to the dining table, saying, "You haven't eaten yet? I ordered a meal and brought you one." "Oh, thank you." Su Weifeng was immediately confused. What was going on? She wanted to kill him and let him eat a full meal. When she came to the dining table, Qiao Yushan frowned. Su Weifeng's heart immediately jumped. She was about to explode. Go wash your hands before eating. Huh. Su Weifeng's eyes widened immediately. Qiao Yushan said impatiently, wash your hands before eating. Don't tell me you are so embarrassed. Su Weifeng hurriedly ran to the bathroom to wash his hands, and then his head was full of questions. Qiao Yushan's attitude was really puzzling. He sat down at the dining table nervously. Qiao Yushan had already started eating, and Su Weifeng had to eat cautiously and nervously. Qiao Yushan didn't say a word until the meal was over, which made Su Weifeng feel that this was the prelude to the storm. Su Weifeng rushed to clean up the table, at least to show some effort, so that the storm would subside a little. After cleaning up, Qiao Yushan had already sat on the sofa looking at her phone. Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment, but still sat over, coughed lightly, and said, Yushan, is there anything? Qiao Yushan raised her head. Her face was very calm. This calmness made Su Weifeng feel uneasy, and he said, that morning. Oh, you are talking about what happened in the morning. Qiao Yushan said lightly, staring at Su Weifeng. Here it comes. The storm is coming. Chapter 171. Qiao Yushan also needs. I thought about what happened this morning, and it should be as you said, so. Su Weifeng became more nervous. First affirm you, then get angry. This is a sign before many people explode. So, I have to apologize to you for my bad attitude towards you. What? Su Weifeng's eyes widened immediately. I apologize to you. Qiao Yushan was very serious and her attitude was quite sincere. Are you sure this is not the prelude to your anger? Su Weifeng's mouth twitched. This was definitely not the version he imagined. He had thought of countless possibilities in his mind, but he definitely didn't think that Qiao Yushan would apologize to him. Of course not. But, after all, I took advantage of it at that time. Although the consequences are like this, it was my mistake after all. It's not my style to attribute this mistake to you. Su Weifeng suddenly gave Qiao Yushan a thumbs up and said, Yushan, I really admire you. You really have the generosity of a boss. Are you flattering me? Qiao Yushan rolled her eyes at Su Weifeng. No, I'm sincere. Before I came back, I had thought of countless possibilities, but I didn't expect you to apologize to me. This made me know you again. A woman who can be so rational and have such a broad mind is simply one in a million. No, she is absolutely rare. There are not many in the world. Qiao Yushan's face turned black and said, okay, don't say it. I will be ashamed if you say it again. Su Weifeng laughed, and his tense nerves finally relaxed. He leaned back on the sofa and said, no more. I feel like it's all in vain, after worrying for a whole day. Qiao Yushan glanced at him and said, just think of it as the price you pay, after taking advantage of it. Su Weifeng nodded repeatedly and said, yeah, it should be. Compared to the bargain, this price is really easy. Huh. It seems that you enjoy this bargain? Su Weifeng immediately felt the dangerous aura in Qiao Yushan's eyes, and hurriedly said, if I don't enjoy it, I feel strongly guilty. HMPH. Men. Qiao Yushan shook her head and said, do whatever you want. I'll go to work after a break. Don't work so hard all day. Relax now. Today. Su Weifeng almost said that he knew Lin Zhuangxuan was unwell today, but when the word came to his lips, he quickly changed his words and said, today, a female colleague in our company worked too hard every day, which caused insomnia and bad brain nerves. No matter how important work is, it is not as important as health. Qiao Yushan sighed and said, everyone knows this, but work must be done. Then take some time to exercise more. I feel that your body is indeed lacking exercise. If you don't mind, I recommend you to do a few exercises. Take some time every day, and do them for a few minutes at a time. It is still very good for your body. In terms of effect, massage is definitely faster than exercising by yourself, but Su Weifeng has not had much contact with Qiao Yushan, and she herself lacks exercise, so the best way is to let her exercise better. Qiao Yushan was obviously a little hesitant, and not so willing. Su Weifeng took the phone from Qiao Yushan's hand, and put it on the coffee table. He said, the movements are very simple, and will definitely work. This kind of forced thing really rarely happens. In addition, Su Weifeng also meant well, so Qiao Yushan finally nodded. The first movement is to be done while sitting. The most important thing is to relieve eye and brain fatigue. First, close your eyes, and then. Su Weifeng demonstrated it to Qiao Yushan. This movement is indeed very simple. Qiao Yushan also tried it and said, it seems that there is no feeling. Su Weifeng rolled his eyes and said, this is just a simple method. How can it have such a significant effect? Generally, you have to do 3 sets to feel a little bit. You have to do it every day to really have a good effect. Don't say I'm fooling you. Do it twice more. Oh. Qiao Yushan did it twice as he said, and then she really felt that her head was clearer and her eyes were much clearer. It really works. Qiao Yushan nodded. This is just for sitting. It's best to learn standing as well. It's very important for your entire body function. Okay, it feels quite simple. Then I'll learn all of them. Su Weifeng then taught Qiao Yushan the basic exercise method for standing. The movements are still a few simple movements, but this one is not so simple, because this is Su Weifeng's summary. Based on many years of practical experience, it is not the kind of thing that a fitness coach teaches, and the requirements for the posture to be achieved are still very high. Seeing that Qiao Yushan did it wrong several times, Su Weifeng was a little confused and said, Yushan, can I help you correct it? Qiao Yushan immediately understood the meaning of Su Weifeng's words and said, why do you have to be so careful? Just do what you should do. Just be a man. I don't believe that I can't learn such a simple movement. Su Weifeng went over and grabbed Qiao Yushan's arm with one hand, supported her waist with the other hand, and said, move your arm back a little bit. Yes, and push your waist forward. Stop, it's at this position. Make sure your arms and waist are at this angle, then it can have the desired effect. Hiss. Qiao Yushan grinned. This posture made her feel a little painful. Because you don't exercise often, your body is a little stiff. This pain is inevitable, but Su Weifeng hesitated. Qiao Yushan glared at him and said, do you want to use massage to relax my muscles? You actually know that? I've been to the gym before, so I know a little bit. Come on, just don't go too far. No, the main problem is your arms, legs, and waist. Then come on. Qiao Yushan's personality is that, if she doesn't do it, she must do it to the best of her ability. So at this time, she called on this energy, and said that she would do the movements in place no matter what. Qiao Yushan lay on the bed. Su Weifeng stood by the bed, and suddenly felt a little interesting. He had just massaged Lin Zhuangxuan during the day, and now he came back to massage his cousin Qiao Yushan at night. Why haven't you started yet? Don't tell me that I need to take off my clothes. Qiao Yushan turned her head and frowned slightly. That's definitely not necessary. Su Weifeng said as he pulled up Qiao Yushan's arm. Su Weifeng's actions were proper, without any overstepping, and he was quite familiar with Qiao Yushan. Qiao Yushan was wearing normal home clothes at the moment, and there was nothing revealing. Although the atmosphere was still somewhat seductive, Su Weifeng was still able to control his emotions. Chapter 172 Warmth. Qiao Yushan's WeChat video notification rang. It was sent by her mother. Qiao Yushan did not ask Su Weifeng to stop, and directly answered the video. What are you doing? You young people, why are you answering the video at this time? Song Yuru saw the situation in the video, but she could not see it completely, but it seemed that Qiao Yushan was lying on her stomach, and Su Weifeng's hands were still on his daughter. This posture did not seem to be suitable for the video. Qiao Yushan was just letting the two mothers see this, and then hurriedly said, no, Weifeng is giving me a massage again. Massage? Weifeng really loves you. Song Yuru felt very relieved immediately. Qiao Yushan said, well, I'm too busy this day. Weifeng will give me a massage to relieve my fatigue. Haha, that won't delay you, right? No, it's a good time to chat. I have to go to work later. I really don't know why you are so busy. Song Yuru shook her head, and then she and Song Ji once again discussed the decoration with Qiao Yushan. Qiao Yushan has been involved since the house purchase. In order to deal with the two mothers, she had to study it in a proper way. After several times, she didn't know how to integrate into it. At this time, she listened to the two mothers' ideas and put forward her own opinions. It was really like studying the house she would live in the future. This chat lasted for half an hour. Su Weifeng's hands did not stop. He kept massaging her. Because of her dedication, it was more convenient for him to massage. Finally, the video was hung up, and Su Weifeng stopped and said, "That's it. Oh, it's been so long. It's really hard for you." Qiao Yushan stood up and moved around, and said in surprise, "I feel that my whole body is much more relaxed." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "The muscles are all massaged, now you can continue to try the movements I taught you." Qiao Yushan tried again, and this time she really did it very quickly. Su Weifeng pointed out the key points of these movements in detail. Qiao Yushan is also a very smart person. She remembered it clearly very quickly, and did it very well every time she did it. Not bad, not bad. This feeling is very good. I feel like I can do without sleeping tonight. Song Weifeng's face darkened, and he said, "I teach you this to keep you healthy, not to let you destroy your body. Go to bed when you should. If a person always doesn't go to bed on time, no matter how good the exercise is, it will be useless." Song Weifeng's attitude was a bit fierce, and Qiao Yushan unconsciously felt a little guilty, and said, "It's just a casual talk, you don't have to take it so seriously." "What do you mean by talking? You work like hell. This is absolutely not okay. Normally you have to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Even if you have a lot of things to do, you must go to bed at 11 o'clock. Okay, I get it. Why are you so fierce?" Qiao Yushan muttered. Su Weifeng shook his head, looking like he was disappointed in me, and said, "People like you, if I don't treat you a little fiercely, you won't care at all." "Okay, I remember. Don't be fierce. I'm going to take a shower. I'm sweating all over." Qiao Yushan was scolded by Su Weifeng and ran away. After taking a shower, Qiao Yushan went to work. She came out at 10:30, raised her chin proudly at Su Weifeng, and said, "It's not yet 11 o'clock. I'm going to bed." Su Weifeng nodded in appreciation and said, "Not bad. Keep it up in the future. I know, you're so nagging." Qiao Yushan rolled her eyes at Su Weifeng, and then said, "There is a newly bought quilt in that bag, and some other things you need. You can use them tonight." After opening the bag, Su Weifeng was a little surprised that there were actually some clothes for changing. He looked up and said, "Did you buy this for me?" Qiao Yushan said lightly, "You think too much. I asked my secretary to buy it for me. How can I have time to buy these things for you? Then I'm really troublesome to you." Su Weifeng couldn't help but feel moved. Someone like Qiao Yushan who only knew how to work all day could actually think about this. Even if she didn't buy it herself, it was really not easy. Seeing Qiao Yushan was about to enter the room, Su Weifeng said, "Don't cough at night." Qiao Yushan blushed and said, "I usually have this habit. I kind of ignored you being here last night, but I won't do that today." Then she went into the room and closed the door. Although Su Weifeng said it righteously, he was still looking forward to it. But such a good thing would only happen once, but it would not happen again the second time. The next morning, although Qiao Yushan went out to the bathroom, she was still wearing normal pajamas. In the morning, Su Weifeng got up and tidied up. He opened the refrigerator and looked around. Except for some drinks and snacks, there was nothing to cook. It was obvious that Qiao Yushan never cooked at home. Seeing that it was still early, Su Weifeng tidied up and went downstairs directly. He ran a few laps in the community, then went to the breakfast stall and bought some buns, fried dough sticks and soy milk, and then returned to Qiao Yushan's home again. "I thought you were gone." Qiao Yushan happened to come out of the bedroom, yawned, and saw the bag in Su Weifeng's hand, and said, "Did you go to buy breakfast?" "I went out for some exercise, and bought some breakfast by the way. Don't bother me. I'll get to the company and the secretary will prepare it for me." Su Weifeng put the food on the dining table and said, "When you eat in the company, you start to think about work in your heart. How can you eat peacefully? You can only eat at home. What you said makes sense." Qiao Yushan nodded and went into the bathroom to wash up. The two ate breakfast in silence. Qiao Yushan suddenly raised her head and stared at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng also looked up and asked, "What's wrong?" Qiao Yushan took a bite of the fried dough stick. A faint smile appeared on her face and said, nothing. Although Su Weifeng felt a little puzzled, he did not ask much and said, then eat well. Qiao Yushan chewed the fried dough stick slowly. This kind of food is high in calories and she basically doesn't eat it. The things her secretary bought for her were all refined hotel breakfasts, but now she feels that this fried dough stick seems to taste better than those refined breakfasts. Chapter 173. Anything is okay. I arrived at the company later than yesterday, but as soon as I got off the elevator, Su Weifeng felt a very depressing atmosphere, and then he saw Lin Zhuangxuan and Xu Lingling standing at the intersection of the corridor. Why are you here again? Didn't I tell you? Su Weifeng had to take the initiative to make his position clear at this time. Even if it was a fake boyfriend, Su Weifeng knew that the best way to show his loyalty to a woman was to refuse to be ambiguous or involved with other women. Xu Lingling raised her chin proudly at this time and said, you think too much. I'm not here to find you. Then are you here to discuss business? Su Weifeng immediately thought of another possibility. This woman might really be trying to get close to him by discussing business. Would I use such a low-level method? Xu Lingling was even more proud. Lin Zhuangxuan gritted her teeth and said, she rented the opposite side. Xu Lingling chuckled and said, what? You are allowed to do business here, but I'm not allowed to open a company here? Okay. Lin Zhuangxuan gritted his teeth even tighter. Su Weifeng was also in a state of confusion. Xu Lingling was really ruthless. Su Weifeng lowered his head and whispered in Lin Zhuangxuan's ear, Zhuangxuan, go in first. I want to talk to her. Lin Zhuangxuan looked at Su Weifeng and nodded. Although she usually looked at Su Weifeng a little closely, she was not the kind of person who didn't trust Su Weifeng. Lin Zhuangxuan entered the company, and Su Weifeng directly pulled Xu Lingling's arm and walked towards her company. Hey, what are you doing? Do you want to molest me? Xu Lingling's voice was very loud. Just then, several employees of Su Weifeng's company came over and almost fell down when they heard this. This woman is really too bold. However, there is no need to say this kind of thing so loudly. Besides, Lin Zhuangxuan's real girlfriend is still in the company. The space in this office is smaller than Su Weifeng's, but it is only a comparison. It is still more than 300 square meters. After entering, Xu Lingling smiled. Su Weifeng's face turned dark and he said, Miss, please stop playing like this, okay? You are ruining my life by doing this, okay? Xu Lingling raised her chin and said, how did I ruin it? I didn't go to find you today. You came to me. Su Weifeng was almost choked to death and said unhappily, can you speak seriously? I'm so tired when you talk like this. Okay, I'll talk to you nicely. Xu Lingling put away her laughter and said seriously, I just feel that you are a very good person and very much to my taste, so I want to pursue you. Raising her hand to stop Su Weifeng from speaking, Xu Lingling continued, I didn't ask you to agree to me, and I didn't force you to like me, but you can't stop me from liking you. Su Weifeng's face turned dark and he said, then tell me what you like about me, and I'll change it. To be honest, this sentence was quite hurtful, but Xu Lingling laughed and said, I just like the way you reject me with a helpless look on your face. Please change it. Su Weifeng's mouth twitched, and he felt that arguing with this girl was really asking for trouble. Xu Lingling gently pushed Su Weifeng and said, don't be so sad. I said, I won't force you, but you have to give me a chance to get to know me. Maybe you will like me. Su Weifeng looked at Xu Lingling and said, do you like a man who has a girlfriend, but still gives other women a chance? Of course not. Xu Lingling answered without hesitation, then grinned and said, you don't have to give me a chance, I will fight for it myself. You are really hopeless. Su Weifeng shook his head repeatedly. Xu Lingling nodded repeatedly and said, you are right. The more you reject me so firmly, the more I feel that I'm hopelessly in love with you. Su Weifeng took a deep breath and said, since you insist so much, I have a request. Xu Lingling blinked her eyes, not looking very happy, and said, okay, tell me. You can't just go to my company casually, and you can't cause trouble for Zhuangxuan. I hate seeing you two quarreling. Xu Lingling pouted and said, what if she takes the initiative to cause trouble for me? Zhuangxuan won't cause trouble for you. That's not necessarily the case. She has a lot of opinions about me. If I say no, then no. Zhuangxin is not the kind of person with a small temper. TSK. Xu Lingling curled her lips with a look of disdain. Su Weifeng said, don't make me uncomfortable. If you make me uncomfortable, even if you are a woman, I will not give in to you. Domineering. So handsome. Xu Lingling held her cheeks with both hands, and little stars appeared in both eyes. Su Weifeng's momentum was instantly drained. How could he meet such a shameless woman? You'd better remember what I said. Su Weifeng shook his head. He had said what he should say. He might as well run away. Xu Lingling did not chase him out. She just stared at Su Weifeng's back until Su Weifeng walked out. She waved her fist vigorously and said, I really want to chase you. No one can take away the man that I, Xu Lingling, have set my eyes on. Xu Lingling was not playing around. After the car race, she was grateful to Su Weifeng for helping her a lot, so she kept paying attention to Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming until the two guys came to Su Weifeng's company the next day. She was also quite worried and rushed over secretly. Although she didn't know how Su Weifeng solved it, she saw Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming coming out with the top bodyguards from the four families. This made her feel that Su Weifeng was not simple. It was more than simple. He was simply a monster. When she came here, she was indeed grateful, but when Xu Lingling provoked her, she couldn't help but have a desire to win. After returning home, she went to investigate Mi Xianggang and Qiao Qingming again. Unexpectedly, Mi Xianggang returned to the provincial capital in the afternoon, and the Qiao family directly locked Qiao Qingming up, as if he was in solitary confinement. This gave her a new understanding of Su Weifeng. This guy's definitely a guy with a very strong background. Thinking that even if she escaped the marriage with the Mi family this time, she would definitely not be able to escape this kind of marriage relationship in the future. If she could find someone who she could look up to, and who could be accepted by the family, wouldn't that be perfect? Chapter 174 So handsome. After returning to his company, Su Weifeng went straight into Lin Zhuangxuan's office. Lin Zhuangxuan did not ask, but just glanced at Su Weifeng, pretending to be looking at a document on the table seriously, but her puffy face had completely betrayed her. This was a person who could not hide anything in her heart, at least in front of Su Weifeng. She behaved like this. Su Weifeng looked like laughing. He sat down opposite Lin Zhuangxuan, leaned on the table, looked at her and said, although the problem has not been completely resolved, she will not come to our company on her own initiative in the future, and will not bother you. Lin Zhuangxuan immediately raised her head and said, what do you mean by not bothering me? Am I afraid that she will bother me? Su Weifeng hurriedly said, yes, I told her not to come to me, and I won't go to her place. Is that okay? Lin Zhuangxuan snorted and said, why didn't you chase her away? I felt unhappy knowing she was across the street. Su Weifeng said helplessly, I can't do that. She doesn't agree, and I can't force her to leave. But don't worry, she is not my type at all. You are my type. That's better. Lin Zhuangxuan raised the corners of his mouth, and he stiffened his face to hide his pride. Su Weifeng suddenly felt that there was something wrong with what he said, and quickly added, oh, I'm not right. I like your sister's type. Lin Zhuangxuan's expression froze, and the tense smile disappeared instantly. Without saying a word, he lowered his head to look at the documents. Su Weifeng asked in confusion, what's wrong? Why are you unhappy again? No. Lin Zhuangxuan raised his head again, and smiled, saying, humph, I just have to help my sister keep a good eye on you, otherwise you, a bastard, will be unfaithful at any time. Su Weifeng leaned back and said, your sister is blessed to have a sister like you in her previous life. That's right, she must have knocked through the wooden fish for hundreds of lifetimes, and burned incense for thousands of lifetimes, to have a sister like me. When Lin Zhuangxuan said this, she actually had a gnashing of teeth and a fierce feeling. Su Weifeng was a little stunned. What was going on? Why did it look like Lin Zhuangxuan had suffered a great loss? I have to go to my sister's place tonight. I have to give her a good beating. Oh, it's a small matter. Let's go out to eat tonight. No, I want to eat at home. Su Weifeng said, okay, then we'll eat at home. I'll go tell your sister. Coming out of Lin Zhuangxuan's office, Su Weifeng immediately sent a message to Qiao Yushan, telling her that Lin Zhuangxuan was coming over for dinner. After a long time, Qiao Yushan replied, That's a bit overwhelming. Don't let her see anything. It's okay, she's going. Even if she has to stay at your place, it's normal for me to sleep on the sofa. This is not the point. It's okay for you to sleep with me. The main thing is some small details in daily life. I don't have some of your normal things at home. I'll take some time to go home today to get some things and send them to your place. Okay, put them all in my closet, just like at your home. The two discussed it and felt that dealing with Lin Zhuangxuan would be more difficult than dealing with the two mothers. After all, they are all young people, so they are more familiar with the details of life. If there is anything wrong, Lin Zhuangxuan will definitely be able to see it. Taking a break, Su Weifeng sneaked back home to get some clothes and other things. The two mothers didn't care about it at all. This behavior seemed more normal. When Su Weifeng left this morning, Qiao Yushan gave him a key, so he didn't have to get the key. Of course, even if Su Weifeng didn't use the key, it would take only a few minutes to enter this ordinary anti-theft door, but these skills were really unnecessary in this situation. Hanging some clothes is fine, but putting underwear in the closet makes Su Weifeng a little embarrassed. He has to organize Qiao Yushan's things. Fortunately, Su Weifeng is not a teenage boy. Although he was a little moved when he saw these things, he didn't do anything indecent, so he sorted them out quickly. It happened that there were not many things to do in the company today, and the three of them basically returned to Qiao Yushan's house one after another. Lin Zhuangxuan walked around the house and said, "It's different now that I have a boyfriend. The house is full of the smell of men." Qiao Yushan said, "Then you should find a boyfriend too. I'm not in a hurry. I'm happy alone. I won't look for such a stinky man." As he said that, he looked at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng's face turned black and he said, "Where am I stinky? You stink all over." "It's stinky." Humph. Lin Zhuangxuan stretched out her hand and fanned her nose with a look of disgust. Qiao Yushan glared at Lin Zhuangxuan and said, "You are so disrespectful all day long. It turns out that there is no humanity in the opposite sex. Sister, you don't love me anymore." Lin Zhuangxuan hugged Qiao Yushan's arm, looking aggrieved. After laughing for a while, Su Weifeng said, "What do you want to eat? I'll order it now." Qiao Yushan said, "No need to order. Let's go to the supermarket. I want to cook a meal today." "You cook?" Lin Zhuangxuan and Su Weifeng shouted in unison, and then stared at Qiao Yushan. Qiao Yushan said unhappily, "What are you looking at? What's wrong with me saying I'm cooking? Can you cook?" Lin Zhuangxuan looked puzzled. "I can't say I can, but I learned a little from my aunt, so I should be able to cook something simple." Qiao Yushan didn't seem to be that confident. Lin Zhuangxuan grinned and said, "You won't poison us to death, will you?" Su Weifeng subconsciously nodded repeatedly. Qiao Yushan was amused by the two people and said, "Then I'll poison you two to death. Let's go to the supermarket." Su Weifeng was already very familiar with the two of them, but except for the first time they met, they had never been together as a group of three, especially this kind of leisure lifestyle of shopping in the supermarket. There were still a lot of people in the supermarket. Su Weifeng pushed the shopping cart, while Lin Zhuangxuan and Qiao Yushan followed him on the left and right. They looked at the shelves on both sides. The fresh food area was at the back. The three of them first passed by the small food area. Girls generally like to eat these things, and Qiao Yushan was no exception. The three of them started to choose here. "I like this. This is not bad either." The two of them took things from the shelves on both sides and put them in the cart. But Su Weifeng was a little frightened at this time, because not only Qiao Yushan was holding his arm, but also Lin Zhuangxuan. Chapter 175 Three people shopping. For Qiao Yushan and Lin Zhuangxuan, holding Su Weifeng's arm was a common thing, and it could even be said to be a habit. No one would think there was anything wrong with it. But in fact, it was nothing if it happened alone. But if three people were together, it would be abnormal. "Weifeng, this is delicious. Have you ever eaten it?" Lin Zhuangxuan picked another snack and presented it to Su Weifeng like a treasure. Su Weifeng quickly said, "I don't usually eat snacks." Then he winked at Lin Zhuangxuan. But Lin Zhuangxuan immediately turned his head and focused on the shelf, not paying attention to Su Weifeng's eyes. Su Weifeng was so confused that he reached out and pulled Lin Zhuangxuan's hand down when they stopped. But just as she pulled it down, Lin Zhuangxuan casually pulled it up again. She didn't realize that there was anything wrong with what she did. At this moment, Qiao Yushan turned around, and Su Weifeng's heart suddenly lifted up. He felt like he was stealing someone, and was caught by his wife. But Qiao Yushan just took a bag of snacks, and said to Su Weifeng, "You can go back and try this, it's very good." She was showing her girlfriend's consideration. Su Weifeng nodded repeatedly and said, "I'll try it when I get back." Qiao Yushan smiled, and went to choose something again. Su Weifeng couldn't help but feel a little confused. He was absolutely sure that Qiao Yushan saw Lin Zhuangxuan also holding his arm, but why didn't Qiao Yushan react at all? Even the expression on her face didn't change at all. This was too abnormal. But then, Qiao Yushan not only talked to Su Weifeng, but also talked to Lin Zhuangxuan. The two of them also discussed which flavor was better through Su Weifeng, and both of them didn't let go of Su Weifeng's arm. After several times like this, Su Weifeng finally confirmed that this situation was safe. But why was it like this? Even if Qiao Yushan was pretending to be his girlfriend, wouldn't he have doubts when he saw his cousin in such an intimate posture with him? Finally, Su Weifeng suddenly thought of a reason. Qiao Yushan didn't really regard him as her boyfriend, so she lacked the possessiveness of a girlfriend, and lacked the vigilance against other women, so even if she saw Lin Zhuangxuan holding Su Weifeng's arm, her brain had not analyzed and judged it. And apart from this reason, Su Weifeng really couldn't find another suitable reason. After observing carefully for a while, Su Weifeng was almost sure of it, and his heart calmed down. He was not Qiao Yushan's real boyfriend. Both of them pretended to be his girlfriend, and he had no real relationship with them, so he didn't have to feel so guilty. This made him feel more at ease, and Su Weifeng simply enjoyed the fun of shopping with the two of them. He was used to a life where life and death were just a matter of moment, and such a life was indeed a rare kind of comfort for him. A special feeling suddenly came again, just like the wonderful feeling of being alone with Lin Zhuangxuan a few times before. Su Weifeng was immediately immersed in that wonderful feeling. Shopping with the two of them was all based on instinct. It was not until the three of them had chosen their things that Su Weifeng came out of that wonderful state. Finally returning home, Su Weifeng, a laborer, put the two large bags of things on the coffee table, and he felt an indescribable enjoyment. "Weifeng, what's wrong with you? Why do you seem to be enjoying it so much?" Lin Zhuangxuan looked at Su Weifeng in confusion. Qiao Yushan also looked at Su Weifeng and said, "Just now in the supermarket, I felt that something was wrong with you, but I couldn't put it into words." Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "It's a pleasure in itself to accompany you two beauties to the supermarket." Lin Zhuangxuan spat at Su Weifeng, then raised her chin and said proudly, "That's right, it's really hard to find a man in this world who can accompany us shopping." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "So it's definitely Milner." Qiao Yushan said at this time, "Okay, Zhuangxuan, come and help me, let's cook together." "Okay." Lin Zhuangxuan answered quite happily this time. "Hey, you actually agreed?" Qiao Yushan was a little confused. "I remember you hate cooking the most. You are the same. You can change for a man, although I don't have a man yet, but I have to prepare for a rainy day." "No." Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly glared and said, "It's all because of you. You went to your aunt's house to learn how to cook, and when you ask me to pretend, what if I don't know how to do it? You are pitying me." Qiao Yushan nodded immediately and said, "Not bad, not bad. You really have to learn from me, so that we can reach an agreement, otherwise it will be exposed." Lin Zhuangxuan said with a look of grievance, "That's right. For your happiness, I have made too much sacrifice." Okay, I know, I can still treat you badly." Su Weifeng read a kind of secret joy in Lin Zhuangxuan's eyes at this time. The two sisters entered the kitchen, but Su Weifeng was still worried, so he simply followed them in. Not to mention helping, but at least he could ensure their safety. He was really worried. The two sisters cut their hands with a knife, and he was also worried that the two would be scalded by oil. Su Weifeng's worry was not wrong at all. Qiao Yushan almost cut her finger after cutting a few vegetables. Fortunately, it was only on a nail. Su Weifeng's face turned black, and he said hurriedly, "Let me do it." Qiao Yushan refused and said, "No, if I can't even cut vegetables well, how can I cook?" Lin Zhuangxuan also said firmly, "My sister is right. I'll cut the next vegetable. Su Weifeng stood by and was so nervous that he kept staring at the two of them. Fortunately, the two of them didn't bleed, which was also a blessing. But the appearance of the cut vegetables, oh, let's not talk about what it looked like. It was good enough to be able to cut it. When the pot was on, Su Weifeng looked at Qiao Yushan hiding far away and finally couldn't help it and said, "Come on, let me teach you." As he said that, Su Weifeng directly put his arms around Qiao Yushan's waist from behind and held Qiao Yushan's wrist, holding the vegetable spoon with one hand. Qiao Yushan's body stiffened slightly, then she turned her head to look at Su Weifeng and nodded gently. A thin layer of blush appeared on her extremely delicate face. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.